Evening. I'd like to call the Budget Advisory Board on Wednesday, December 19th, 2025 at 5:03 p.m. to order. Give a roll call, please.
Mr. Wells?
Here.
Here. Mr. Kale?
Here.
Mr. Camerata?
Present.
Mr. Giraldo?
Here.
Al Smith? Ms. Lowe?
Here.
Ms. Milroy? Here. Mr. Patel?
Yeah.
And Chair Barker?
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next item on the business, before we go to the approval of the minutes, I'd like to welcome our newest member of the Budget Advisory Board, Oliver Kale, from District 1. So if you'd introduce just tell us a little about yourself and
Thank
good
you.
to know.
Thank you. Hi. So I've moved to this city 18 years ago with my partner, Coral Shore in District 1. We got involved in the community in several ways. We took care of our homeowner association for 5 years. I helped organize a citywide waterway cleaning event a few years ago. Paddle with a Purpose was the nonprofit that I was leading at that time, and I was on code enforcement board. So we're trying to give back to the community by getting involved. I have a background as a corporate executive for multinational corporations, mainly in Europe. I started a business in New York 20 years ago, developed it, sold it. My background in management consulting as well will lead me to be interested in understand how the city operates financially. And also I hear a lot of constituents concerned about the cost of living, the affordability of the city, especially middle-class families and fixed income people who are concerned about, the affordability of the cost of living in the city. So I think that angle and the return on investment are going to be my points of interest.
Well, welcome. Again, it's a very engaging board. It's one of the most top community civic citizen advisory boards in the city that really dig in and very productive, and our meetings are very enlightening and very productive. So you'll find that out. You have a lot of homework to do, especially the month of May, after we go 3 meetings.
I started with that, your budget in the past. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Next item on the business is the approval of the last meeting minutes from February 19th. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look. I do have one correction, and that's on page 3, the third paragraph. Chair Brown pointed out that property values potentially would not continue to increase in double digits. Is that possible? Okay. So all we have to do is add the word potentially would not.
Want a motion?
Yes, as amended.
As in,
Motion to accept as amended by Vice Chair, seconded by Ross. All in favor, you can vote. You don't have to be present. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, very good. Do we have anyone from the community that would like to give neighborhood input tonight? Did anyone sign up?
no one has signed up.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, old business. Is there any items of old business? Oh,
I know that we sent some communication to commission
yes,
last week.
that has not been because the meeting minutes have not been approved to send along with it.
Got it.
And I will tell you in discussion with city manager's office later and the mayor, they would rather wait till we have our workshop. Because I don't think it's going to be an issue. Could potentially not be an issue, of course. Okay. With some of the challenges facing the budget as it moves forward. Any other old business, Laura?
No, actually, would you? Our incoming city managers here, would you?
Okay, I didn't see Raquel down
be
there.
in Favor for introducing yourself?
So many
I
people.
don't know, she's not old business, don't get that.
Well,
This might be a good opportunity.
I'm going to take the privilege of designating the introduction to Melinda from our committee, who was the chair of the selection committee. So would you introduce her?
Yes, so just everyone and Raquel, it's great to see you. So Raquel Williams is going to be joining us officially as our city manager on April the 2nd. I believe that's a Wednesday.
Yes.
So good day to choose in the middle of the week. But we're delighted to have her. I was on the city manager search committee where we were reviewing all the candidates, 94 candidates initially, paired down with by a search firm, and Raquel easily rose to the top of the list. And we recommended her to the city commission. I'm very glad they chose her. She comes to us from City of Miami Beach, where she is the assistant city manager, and she's got a wealth of experience. And oh geez, it's too much to encapsulate at the moment, but she was also close by in Dania Beach. She has deep CRA experience, and I think she's going to definitely be a huge asset, and she's already been showing up at many meetings. So delighted to have you join us, Raquel.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Happy to be here. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for volunteering your time for this purpose. And I look forward to working with you all as we develop the budget for next fiscal year. And I have already challenged the team to look for opportunities for innovation and efficiency. So I look forward to going through the process and making an impact along with you all. Thank you.
Welcome, and I also would like to thank Susan, even though you officially don't start till what, April 2nd, I think.
Or stop, but I'm not going anywhere.
Stepping up the last several months, I think since, was it June?
It's 10 months, yeah. Just-
And steering this ship up and down the intercoastal without hitting the side of the intercoastal.
It's been a joy, thank
No,
you.
and prior to that, you were involved in the budget and assistant city, so you've done a fantastic job, and we want to thank you.
Thank you, that's okay.
Okay, moving along to the fun part of today will be new business. And we're going to go and start with department presentations, their business plans. I'll cover their business plans, their accomplishments, and their challenges. And what we've done in the past, and it seems to work best unless the consensus of the board wants to change the process, is we allow the department heads, if we go down the day, we're going to have the fire chief and police chief, director of human resources and budget, and director of finance, to give their business plan presentations, but give them the opportunity to go through the business plan, and then we'll go around the room and not around the room, but the committee of the board to ask questions about the budget plan or their challenges. Because we have a 2-hour time limit, a 2-hour time to try to be out by.
Per department, or we're gonna wait for all of them?
Right?
No.
Well, the
I'm
first
sorry,
two,
my question, Chair, my question is, are we gonna wait to listen to all 4 in group A and
no,
then? or
no,
we're gonna
each
by
one,
Okay, good. Okay.
department by department, correct. Thank you for that clarification. For the new members of the board, a lot of more time spent on public safety, historic past, because those are the bigger departments, the bigger parts of the budget. They occupy the largest percentage of our employees. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fire Chief Golden and to give a presentation.
So I get to start, huh?
You can be the quickest, chief.
Yeah, well, he said he wants 4 minutes, I only get 1, I don't know why, it doesn't seem fair, but first and foremost, I always wanna thank everyone for all of your support, obviously, the fire department's more of like an insurance policy. And often not thought of until times are bad. However, the support the community gives us provides us with the ability to provide a level of service that is actually unseen in some areas of this world. We're very fortunate to have response times where we're on scene within 6 to 10 minutes, able to have life-saving measures, able to have paramedics that are properly trained, the equipment, and have trauma centers so close where we're able to effectively save lives. Looking at our turn of spontaneous circulation, approaching the national averages, we're in the high 20%, and that's absolutely great numbers to be at. As you all know, that in the last year, we've had the luxury of being awarded the SAFER grant, which is giving us the opportunity to have 28 additional firefighters join our force. This is incredibly important because, you know, when I look at what keeps me up at night or what the future of the organization looks like, it's very challenging to navigate. We're a very slow-moving ship that takes us years in order to gain additional personnel or to make changes. You know, obviously building a firehouse is not something that can be done in a year, 2, 3, or even it takes up to 5 years to make these changes. We're looking at times now where it takes 4 years just to procure a fire truck. Most of our trucks right now are about 36 months out. And since COVID, we've gone to what used to be around 500,000, 600,000 for an engine, a pumper, to about 1.1 million. Our ladder trucks that were once 1 million are now 2.4 million. And so the cost is unbelievable. We're also at the same time trying to stay ahead of cutting technology and provide the highest level of service to the community. We're seeing things enter into community paramedicine such as whole blood, which provides over 70% increase in survivability from a leading traumatic event for the first 24 hours of the patient. TXA, the administration of TXA in the field, which provides a 13% increase in survivability in that first 24 hours of a traumatic event. Advanced airways, life packs, all of those different things. And I say all of that because I'm also at the same time looking at the growth of our amazing city, and being someone that's a native of Fort Lauderdale and born here, raised here, and spent my entire life here. It's unbelievable. Every single time I go down the street, I see a new building coming out of the ground. You often, you know, get caught in your own little bubble, and you venture out to have lunch or attend a HOA meeting or something else, and you're like, where did that building even come from? When you look at some of the reports that are out there, or go to obviously our city web pages, and just in the downtown quarter alone, we're looking at right now over 60 commercial structures that are either under construction, approved, or in review. So when you look at those numbers, that's bringing over 21,000 residential units online in the downtown quarter. That's between Davie Boulevard, east of the tracks, west of Federal Highway, and south of Sunrise Boulevard in the next few years. And of that, 21 of those are greater than 40 stories tall. So, you know, why does 40 stories, why do I even bring that number up? Because it's changing our response profile. When you look through our business plan, you obviously will see that we're rated on our ability to navigate traffic and our response times and things like that. But our entire business model is changing. We're now getting from a horizontal response to a vertical response. When you look at a 40-story building, it now takes multiple minutes to get to that patient. So as I started the conversation with increasing that chance of survivability, and it's in the totality of the city. It's important, obviously, for the families and the people that we serve to be able to have that return of spontaneous circulation, but it's also important for my paramedics so that they don't have that post-traumatic stress, so they don't feel like they're not being afforded the tools that they need in order to save lives. I have to give them the ability to get to those patients so that they can perform those life-saving measures. When we begin to look at 40 stories, that's no longer transport time. That's no longer from fire station, from the time the call is received to arriving. That's now getting from the first floor of the building to the 50th floor of the building. That's now having more stations, more firefighters, being able to get through the traffic and to navigate some of those challenges. We're in the right course. We're doing the right things. We have a roadmap in place. But the success of that roadmap, the success of everything that we do is going to be to continue to have that financial support behind us in order to reach those. The second thing that keeps me up at night is our preparation for all of this. It requires different training. The city has never seen a hurricane with buildings of this size. With a population of this size. When we look at the evacuations that we have, evacuation zones, the Barrier Island being one, from the intercoastal to Federal Highway being two, and Federal Highway to I-95 being three, means that with a Cat 5 hurricane, we would have almost complete evacuation of our city. I know often public safety is, doom and gloom and coming in, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom. But I also want the realization of the importance of being adequately funded, of having the view forward, to have the right training, to have the right people, to have the right tools and resources. So when that bad time comes, that we're adequately prepared and we're efficiently, effectively able to do our job. That's pretty much what I have to say this evening. I can't thank you enough from the support from everybody in this room, that it takes more than just myself as a fire chief or the police chief. It takes all of these relationships, all of this communication. And like I said, I truly, truly believe with the addition of the 28 individuals that we have coming on board, that we are heading in the right direction. We have plans for firehouses that are coming online and they're moving forward. We also have forward view for needing a station in Flagler Village and what that looks like. And I know that we'll be able to accomplish those goals as well. But we can't think that we're done, because we're not done. As one of the fastest growing cities in the country, we have to continue working hard to keep up with that growth.
Thank you for that presentation. I'll just go around to the board members and open it up. Rich, do you have any questions or?
No, I'm okay. I'll pass it along.
That's because he's sitting on our side of the table.
Linda?
You had mentioned one of the weaknesses was the inadequate training for low frequency, high risk emergency, and that just seems to be a capacity issue as far as with your personnel being able to devote time to training. Is that?
So, we're really good at what we do every single day. Where we get jammed up is what we don't often do. We're great at these large scale events like spring break, putting out fires, responding to cardiac arrest. Where we have challenges is on a mass casualty incident, whatever that may look like, or a high rise fire, because there may be a once in a 10-year type of configuration. The challenge is our call volume is so high and increasing every single year that it's very difficult for us to take units out of service to train for those types of events. The only way to effectively train for those events is to bring overtime in to cover the call volume so that we can then pull those individuals out of service. One of the other challenges that we're seeing is that we have a huge turnover. We're at a milestone in the agency where we're losing a lot of seniority. Over the next 5 years, you're going to see there's over 50 some odd firefighters of ranked positions that will be retiring. And that's a lot of knowledge and experience that's leaving. So we have to train those new firefighters coming in to get to that same level, to get to that same frequency. And the challenge is it's not as simple as just going to a class and doing tabletop exercises. It's physically getting together with other departments and going through the entire scenario. Physically having the moulage on the patients where they look like they've been through the traumatic event, triaging them, working with the hospital so the hospital is compared, because we can't save a life by ourselves. We need all of those different pieces of the chain in order to help us navigate saving of that life. And we all have to train and be on the same exact page. The opportunity to do that is something that does not come up all the time. And that's something that we really, in the future, moving forward, need to be better at and better trained for.
Oh, thanks for that collaboration.
How difficult has it been to recruit people?
Fortunately, we're doing fairly well with that. I am not experiencing the same challenges as a lot of others throughout the state of Florida. I will say that when, every Monday the list of jobs comes out, for the state of Florida. And we're seeing departments in other areas that are offering $10,000-$15,000 sign-on bonuses, lowering their level of training requirements, educational requirements in order to get on board. But we're a destination, that people want to work for the city of Fort Lauderdale. There's a lot to be said with that. We provide them with the right tools, we provide them with the right resources, and they acknowledge that. Also, our pay is very good in comparison with the state of other departments within the state. And so we're seeing a lot of our firefighters that are attracted to come and work for us. The challenge is that they don't live in the area. A lot of those same firefighters are forced to live in Palm Beach. I have firefighters that live as far away. My furthest right now is Ocala, Florida. Some in Tampa, some in Naples. I have some in Orlando. And fortunately with the schedule that they have, it works for them. And they're able to navigate down, work a 24-hour period and navigate back. And they found a way to make that work for them. But it's also a challenge because it does not have the same sentiments or buy-in into the community as I started my conversation out. As a native of many, many years, born and raised in the city, I have a love for this city that's unsurpassed. I want to see the city. And it's very challenging to have a new firefighter coming in to have that same commitment and buy-in to the city when they're living 100 miles away and their child is going to a soccer game 100 miles away. And so we would like to see more affordable housing in the area for our firefighters, for our police officers, so that there's more buy-in to the community that they're protecting and serving on a daily basis.
Well, thank you for doing a great job, Chief Nolan.
Thank you. I appreciate your support. It's without it, nothing's possible.
How's it going? Good to see you. And I have a question about, like, this may be a dumb question, but your numbers for your department for fire, is it based on actual residency or housing? How do you compare how well staffed you are here in Fort Lauderdale to other areas? And is it based on residents?
So that's always a challenge, especially here in Fort Lauderdale, because our census numbers do not really reflect what our actual number of people in the city at any given moment, So, when we look at different models based upon departments across the country, that you'll see that some base it upon the call volume, some base it upon the number of residents that are there. We're trying to increase along with the call volume that we see. The challenge with that is that if we're only trying to navigate that same level of increase, we're always behind by just a little bit. And when we look at some of the graphs and data that we have, is that we're not growing at the same rate that the community's growing. We're behind by a couple percent in our growth along the growth of the community, and that's not taking into the consideration the tourism that's there.
That's what I was asking. It's kind of for both of you guys, because when you look at like other cities across the country, like our tourism is, if we fluctuate so substantially. Do you get any additional support? I mean, I look at the county, we have the bed tax, we have all these things for tourism, that money comes into the county for tourism. And this might be a city question, do we get any of that to help with fire, with police? And why, we don't. And then why not? Because that's what I look at, it's like, that to me, that money that comes in from tourism should also go to the public safety. I mean, I know it's a bigger question, but those are the kind of things I was alluding to, so.
And you're 100% correct, and not going too far down a path, but both Chief Schultz and I have spoken multiple times in regards to the number of special events that are now taking place throughout the city. And when it's a city-sponsored event where we pay overtime per our collective bargaining agreements, and the amount of overtime that generates, just spring break alone, for the 6 weeks, and not having a true cost recovery that's associated directly with the amount of tourism or visitors we have to the city.
I was just thinking that might be a strategy that when you look at it as a city is how we leverage that with the county, because that should be coming to help support these initiatives. I know they're talking about events too, in building that into some of the events moving forward. More of that costs for these types of public safety, but.
So I hadn't heard that, but to answer your question, it was years ago that the state grandfathered in folks who currently charge a resort tax, Miami Beach, Sunny Isles and others. We've advocated for several years through our legislative program to be able to charge in Fort Lauderdale because we have a similar situation. Kind of falls on deaf ears in Tallahassee. It would require a change at the state level in order to do that, and we will continue to advocate for that. But we're not holding our breath either. So
Well, obviously, thank you for all you do. My question is, I know you mentioned that you have 28 new hires based on the Safer Grant. So I'm kind of looking a little bit more into the future. And based on the additional population or the growth that we're experiencing, what's going to be needed? Now, I mean, how long will that keep you where you need to be before you need to say, I need to hire another 28 or with the 40-story buildings that are going up, and now you're saying the trucks have doubled in price to 2.1 million for ladder trucks, like how are you looking at that going out into the future? Because I see that as the biggest issue.
We have multiple fire stations that are projected to come online. You know, some of those, one of those is a P3 down on the east side of downtown. So that station is about 20 to 24 months out from where we expect to be able to occupy that station. And at that point, we would need to hire additional personnel to staff that station. That would be roughly additional 15 personnel. So, you know, it's a fine line when you're starting to align that with us also having the assumption of what the cost of those 28 firefighters that we currently have under SAFER, that funding will expire in 3 years. So you're looking at assuming the costs associated with those 28 firefighters and having to add additional 15 in a relatively close period of time with that. And then we also need to be looking forward to the north part of downtown and the density that's taking place there, the Flagler Village area, and also increasing personnel and equipment in that area as well.
I just think that's something we have to keep in mind because the last meeting we looked at millage rates to the future, and you're gonna be something you just have to bring.
I'm good, sir. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good. Not a question, just a comment, even for the chief, police and other department heads that put in their business plan, they're looking out at succession planning, and that's good to see. That's something that departments, both police and fire and other city agencies have neglected throughout the nation. And so thank you for your taking that proactive approach in the succession planning. And then the only other comment was, we'll hear more about it in future meetings, but last night or yesterday afternoon at the city commission conference meeting, the chief gave a presentation on Station 13, and there's going to be a $4 million short overreach on construction of the original bond money that was set aside for Station 13 construction. So you're looking at what is almost $14 million for that fire station. And one of the things he pointed out was construction costs and materials since the beginning of January of 2024 has went up 5%. That's one of the contributing factors. So we'll hear more about that in future meetings, but I just wanted to get that out on the table. So thank you, Chief.
Did I take all of Chief Schultz time as well? He's got a minute left, right?
I will abbreviate.
I'll tell you, I mean, good.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to start by talking about a couple of successes and accomplishments in my perspective, in being chief for about 1.25 years now. The first would be recruitment and filling our vacancies. When I took the seat of chief, we had 50+ vacancies. We have dwindled that down. Right now, we hover between 20 and 25, continually trying to fill those. But that was in large part due to the collaboration with other departments. I thank Jerome and Human Resources, OMB, Finance, because we came up with a plan to offer incentives for people to move here, whether they are non-sworn and they have to go through the academy or sworn. We came up with an incentive program and it's working.
And I know that Jerome is looking at that at other areas of the city as well for hard to fill posts. And that's something this city has never done before. And that came out of collaboration from between the department directors. And that's another success I want to touch on is in my 24 years in the city, I've never seen a collaborative effort between all of the department directors that I see now. We have a perfect team as far as I'm concerned here in the city, and especially among fire. I know Steve and I have talked about this many times. Traditionally, in cities and counties, fire chiefs and police chiefs don't necessarily see eye to eye or get along, and sometimes they feel it as we're competing for resources. We decided, well, we are, but I'm gonna win. But no, we decided from early on, in order well, see, there you go. We decided early on that we have to collaborate, we have to work together. Public safety is not just one or the other, and it certainly includes a very large cloak of emergency management, which we both take very seriously. So with that, I think those are successes that we've hit, and it's outside of my department. It's with the thanks that I have for the other department directors in the room, because that's how we move this city forward in the direction we need to go. But with that said, of course, allocation of resources is important for your police department. For us to be ever evolving for the circumstances we see nowadays, from everything from physical crime to cyber crime, we have to meet the challenges, and there's a number of things that weigh heavy on my mind as I think about this. Obviously, the first is the safety, wellness of my officers and my professional staff. Probably caring for them, dedicating resources, including mental health support, is vital, keeping a healthy workforce for us. In addition to providing that, making sure we give them the additional tools, the necessary tools, resources, it's key to their success. And when we talk about that, and he hit very hard on the expansion of the city. So I won't go into a lot of more of the numbers, but I do want to add a couple more to that. He talked about primarily the units that are under construction, approved and reviewed, but when you add in the recently completed within the last few years, we are looking at a total of 193 projects. And we're looking at over 26,000 residential units. So if you take that into consideration, we're looking at 15% increase in population, residential population. And that's only if one person lives in those units. So obviously we know that's not the norm. That's where him and I often have our conversations is, how do we keep up with that? It is our challenge to keep up with that. And you had asked about what are the national or our industry standards for that. There are none in stone. There's no hard set guidelines, and it really has to be based on our city. And we're so unique, as touched upon. Residential is a small portion of what we deal with. The daily tourism, certainly right now, the 6 weeks of young tourism, the hundreds of special events that we host, those are all in addition to the daily 911 calls we get and the daily calls for non-emergency assistance and the community engagement that we're rightly so expected to put on. That takes a lot of people. So with that, you absolutely, we need to take into consideration the rapid growth, which I will say for my department, and I'll speak only for my department, we had not done well in the past of keeping pace. And we will absolutely be forecasting that. Another concern that weighs heavy on my mind daily actually is the impact of gun violence and violent crime overall in our city. We rely heavily on the true talents of our detectives and our officers and our professional staff to fight these issues. But we really need to look further at expansion of things, technologies which we know are working in our city. That would include ShotSpotter. That would include the National Integrated Ballistics Information System, or NIBIN, real-time crime centers. And of course, a citywide network of license plate readers and cameras are essential to us solving crimes quickly, identifying suspects immediately, and overall keeping our city safe without the need to go beyond those resources. They're in place now. We just need to look at expanding those and make sure that we continue to do so. And then one last item I wanted to touch on about what keeps me up at night. And this has been in the news, so it's no big secret. Our inability to house municipal ordinance violators it's paralyzing, quite honestly. BSO has refused and continues to refuse to house our city ordinance violators. And it impacts our ability to keep the city safe. And I do want to use a personal case in point, and I will summarize it quickly because some in this room have already heard the story. But last week, I personally made an arrest of an individual who jumped into traffic and began to verbally assault vehicles at a stopped light. And it got to a point of violence where it really scared the drivers, especially one driver who was stopped. So I jumped out of my car, grabbed the violator, took them into custody. But then I walked the case through last week. I wrote the probable cause affidavit. And it's important to know that hours after I took this individual to the main jail, the 2 charges that I charged him with, I found out were not entered into the system. He was released from the jail and the cases were not tried. The magistrate who saw him had no idea that I had charged him with those 2 charges because BSO did not enter my charges into the system. That's out of our control, unfortunately. We can't control the county jail. We can't control the county court system unless we have the ability ourselves to handle those municipal ordinance cases. And that's grown especially with the laws that have changed in the state. The expectations the city has, the high expectations these city residents and visitors rightly so have on our ability to do so. And then what compounds that is our lack of city-directed controlled resources to have a meaningful impact on individuals and situations which we know cause recidivism. We know there are certain things that we know we need to impact to make that challenge. And that's often coexisting conditions, medical conditions, mental health conditions, substance abuse, and certainly our ability to assess and provide rehousing of our homeless population. And we don't have that either. And without that direct and immediate ability to triage a person who's brought in to a facility, we're not going to have that direct impact. So with that all being said, I'll wrap it up on a nicer bow. Trajectory is looking good as far as crime rates, certainly community engagement. I have received, especially of late, a lot of compliments of both police and fire's engagement in the community, going to community events, going to homeowners events. And that's what we're going to continue to increase and pursue to make sure that everyone in the city knows that we're here for them at all times.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I'll start on this side of the room. Oliver.
Thank you, Chief. A couple of, I don't know if they're questions or just conversational points. I know that ShotSpotter was implemented about 5 or 6 years ago, if I recall. And we licensed it, or however we pay for a certain area of the city.
Right.
Have we expanded that?
We have.
Okay, and the cost that it started at from back when this began, you may or may not know the prices of it. Have they also gone up?
They have. Yeah, and it's a national trajectory, of course, but it's not unreasonable how much they've gone up, but they have gone up and they'll continue to go up. But I will tell you this, with the expansion, we've seen immeasurable benefit. So it was primarily in the smaller section of the city, the northwest sector. We have expanded it southwest to nearly southeast at this point. And it includes some of the Hemmershey area, that area west towards 95. Fantastic. It's my hope to expand it into all of our entertainment district areas and our heavily traveled areas. It just gives us an immediate responsibility that we've never had in the past. You don't have to wait on someone to pick up a phone, call 911. Our officers are in response usually before we even get the first 911 call. And it's been immensely helpful.
Are we having any gun violence in areas we don't have ShotSpotter?
Well, yes, there is gun violence in the entertainment areas. Unfortunately, there's robberies. There's confrontations in entertainment areas where we don't have shot spotter. But by and large, the shot spotter has shown that in areas where we've had historical concerns and issues, it's been very helpful in our response.
Are you asking for an expansion of that in this year's requests?
That will be a request that I have. We just finished a expansion, but that will be an upcoming request as well.
And then I know a number of years ago, we had implemented a position for the caring for homeless or patients that need mental health.
He's
Can you
here.
help me with that at all?
Yeah.
Ladies, I know that Susan, you were involved. I know that I think, I'm not sure who else was on the board then. But didn't we implement a position for that? And we had a car for it as well, a mental health.
Oh, I think you're talking about the co-responder position in the fire department.
There were actually a couple, so you
Yeah, we-
received a grant and the grant provided funding to have, it's basically a mental health clinician that would respond with
Yes.
Police officers during high stress incidents. So there was a grant that funded actually, I think, 1 or 2 positions
Yeah.
under that.
One for us and then one for him.
We still have that?
I'm about ready to hire mine. Mine came after him.
Are we
No, no,
having
the-
success with
the
that?
Same with the hiring.
Oh, yes, yes,
We haven't
yes.
hired that grant's only in the last year.
Right.
Yeah, and then on the fire side, we did fund through the general fund, the mobile integrated health
Yes.
program.
Yes.
Again, provided those services.
How is that program doing?
Very good.
So it's, we see those calls that we continuously have to go back and we have those readmittance or 911, almost what we would consider an abuser, because they're looking to us to be their primary care physician, basically, rather than seeking care through a doctor. And we've seen a great success in that. Because when we identify an individual that's having those challenges, the trip and fall hazards or not taking their medications properly or something along those lines, we're able to deploy that team out there and they're able to help them navigate through social workers a solution to the challenges that they have.
Right. So Chief, you were talking about having issues with crime on the streets. You named it something fancy. You're saying?
Municipal ordinance violators?
Correct. Is that position gonna help?
No, those are two separate issues. The
What
position,
can help you there besides having BSO say, hey, yeah, we're on you?
well, that would be the first help is if we could get cooperation and an agreement with Broward Sheriff quickly to take some municipal ordinance violators. They won't take all of ours because then they'll have to take every city's. There's no doubt they won't. What would help is a facility of our own. A facility which we used to have. Up until the mid-2000s, we had a municipal jail. It was a 2.5 level jail that allowed us to do that. And it was shut down due to budget reasons in the mid-2000s. So we are already in the progressive states of looking at how we get a facility, not that one per se, because that's likely not gonna be the actual building, but a facility like that online. It's obviously gonna take some time. So I continue to work with the Broward Sheriff's Office for at least the immediate to get some cooperation in that
Would
regard.
that be anything that, I don't know how it all works, the hierarchy, you're the chief, but with a mayor to mayor kind of conversation help?
I will assure you, our mayor and our electeds have been very involved in this, and they have been our electeds are very supportive of this effort, 100%. And the mayor especially, and I'd like to give them thanks. They've really gone above and beyond in that regard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just obviously policing has changed. I think we all see that. So first of all, just thank you. I think we're so fortunate to have the police force that we have here in Fort Lauderdale, and especially with you at the helm. So thank you.
Thank you.
When you were talking about the incident last week that you were personally involved with, and with BSO, what is there a budget item that could change that other than taking it away from BSO? So when you're putting that in the system, it's in the Fort Lauderdale system, what would help you?
So the only thing that we can do right now is issue what's called a notice to appear, which is a not in custody arrest. We fill out a paper, give a receipt to them basically, and then we send it through the court system and then they're called to court at a later date. That's our only option. But what I was dealing with that day was a violent acting, aggressive, assaulting person who I needed to get off the street at that moment. And I did. And moments later, he was back on the street. So that therein lies the problem. Yeah. Without our ability, if we had our own holding facilities, it's our prosecutors, our city prosecutors, our city magistrate set the tone for the sentences, which could be up to 60 days within our own facility. But right now, there's nothing in the county.
So you say they're looking at that.
Yes, we are.
So
We are.
how many years out is that?
Oh, well, that's a good question. We're in the exploratory phase. We formed a project management committee. I made a presentation briefly. We found a company that we'd like to secure to assist us for the initial planning phases. If I had to guess, we're looking at least 3 years. We are looking at temporary facilities though. Temporary options is another option we're looking at. Would be much less capacity, but we want to get something in line right now while we're looking at the longer term.
That would be in your budget for not 26, but maybe 27.
Well, the facility would be a CIP that we would have to get approval for. The temporary facility, we would have to look at a amendment, obviously, if we're gonna do that.
And we'll get more into that in their individual budget presentations
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I don't want to cut anyone
Yeah,
short, but I
no,
want to
that's
kind of
fine.
keep things, I don't want time to get away from us.
Yeah, I just thank you guys for everything you do. I love to see how you work both so well together. I think the quick low hanging fruit that I look at is these events that commonly challenge us, especially when you live out on the beach. Have we ever explored opportunities to including a public safety fee in those events? Because those are city led. They have to apply to the city, they have to pay the city. But you, much like we do in some of our neighborhoods, where we fund off-duty police officers for our events or for, patrol. Could we do that for public safety for fire and police, where we add that into these events?
I'll answer that.
Yeah.
Presentation was given by Carl Williams, our Parks Director,
Yeah.
yesterday to the City Commission about
Okay.
raising all special event fees. And there was one recommendation from one of the, primarily the Central Beach community to look at and explore that possibility of tagging on a user fee or a ticket and whatever. And so the city manager or the mayor and the commission has directed the city attorney to work with Parks and Rec and their advisory board to come up with some suggestions.
Okay, great.
I don't have anything. I just want to thank you for all you do. And I do see a big change in the last 1 year.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Thank you.
No specific question, just thank you as well for the service you and your whole team is doing, and we particularly had great experience with community support unit for downtown, as well as the analytics team, because I think that it's great that you guys are able to analyze and provide data so that we can assure neighbors in certain instances about the statistics and be able to really focus on what is concerning and not have an overarching fear when there shouldn't be one in certain areas. So I think the analytics have been really important.
Well, I just happen to have the primary analytics man here, Wes, so he will take that thank you back to them. Thank you.
I'm easy tonight because Melissa and Ross's questions were the same as mine, but just thank you for everything, and your community outreach officers have been great. I'm on the board for Flagler Village and they've been wonderful, and I just think that's really impactful for the residents. I get good feedback all the time, so
Fantastic.
thanks for
Thank
everything.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
One quick question, and I saw I think it was a weakness, and that is lack of resources in the investigative bureau. Is that something that you're going to be bringing into your budget presentation?
Yeah, there's gonna be a package that discusses that. Investigations is always a challenge because and we should in police, we place a priority on patrol. The initial uniforms that you see responding to your calls, but with the increase in cases comes the increase in the need for detectives. So you will see a package to address.
Thank you. Thank you again. Ron?
Well. Jerome Pose, Director of HR. I'm not sure how I got selected to follow the most high-profile departments in the city. but here I am.
Oh, you're third.
I must be right up there. I'll take that as a
Exactly.
compliment. The past couple of years, I've come before this board to inform you that we were in the process of rebuilding the human resources team. As you may recall, we lost a lot of key positions a couple of years ago. I'm glad to report that we have filled all of those positions with very technically competent people. I'm very pleased with the work that we've been doing, analyzing policies, procedures, labor issues, taking a new set of eyes in a lot of different areas towards some of these. I want to give credit to the staff and especially my deputy director, Kristen Milligan, who's sitting down at the end. Kristen has really brought a different perspective and has worked with the management staff within HR to be able to use technology to the best of our ability, as well as ensure compliance with different labor laws, particularly with GINA, the Genetic Information, as well as the FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act. I can tell you that our recently hired HR manager for recruitment has also been looking at the use of our applicant tracking system with NeoGov to optimize its use as well. We're finding a lot of elements to that system that have gone unused that we have recognized we can use to streamline not just the recruitment process, but the onboarding processes as well. In particular, we are using the self-scheduling for not only interviews, but pre-screening exams, physical exams, et cetera. That's shortened the process for the onboarding folks. And we've also been looking at what processes we're using in posting positions and making sure that the job descriptions are accurate and correct. And making sure that we can offer the best possible benefits to employees through the benefits section. I can tell you that some of our other accomplishments lie in the risk management area as well, with the reduction of some of the preventative vehicle accidents. We're also looking at the review of the healthcare plan to make sure that that is not only compliant, but also being audited for correct use, shall we say, by employees. Just to give you a few statistics along with the recruitment. In 2024 fiscal year, we hired 599 positions. We processed 56,838 applicants in the NeoGov system. So we're talking about quite a few people and issues that you can possibly think of. In occupational development and learning, we have a few challenges, particularly with supervisory skills. We're looking at different ways to train first-line supervisors and first-time supervisors, particularly in the area of recruitment, because this impacts directly the vacancy rates as well as the probationary terminations, which, as you'll see from the business plan, have been higher than we want them to be. We're finding that one of the issues may be that the hiring managers are not trained properly in identifying red flags in the hiring process. And that's causing some maybe less than best selections in that hiring process, thus resulting in the probationary termination rates. Class and comp. This is the thing that keeps me awake most at night. Last year, I asked for a classification and compensation system. I will be asking for one again, although at a reduced rate. We did a little bit more legwork. We came up with what we think is a more reasonable number to ask for to pay for a class and comp study. As a reminder, that class and comp system that we have was done back in, I believe, 2017 and implemented in 2018. So it's pretty much run its useful life. And although the IAFF and the FOP that represent the fire and police have bargained excellent wage rates in their contracts, we are now opening bargaining with the Federation and the Teamsters units next month. We have the opening date scheduled in April already. Teamsters represents the largest group of employees, the laborers, clerical, et cetera. Federation has two units, actually. One represents the professionals, and then the others are supervisory. But with those positions, we find that we may not be as competitive as we need to be able to attract and retain a lot of positions, particularly in the area of technical skills. The water operators, wastewater operators, electricians, and then there's the DSD area with inspectors and such that are able to go into the private sector and earn quite a bit more money than what they can in the public sector. I don't want to say we're alone in this. I think a lot of the other local communities are experiencing the same issues. But we're Fort Lauderdale. We need to do better, in my opinion, and I think we can. But we need that financial support to be able to attract and retain those positions. The other issue that I get concerned with is the cybersecurity. We've been working with Tamika's group in IT in trying to figure out how to train and hold accountable employees. As you can imagine, it only takes one faulty error for the entire city to be brought down, as you can see in the news media in different cities, Atlanta included. What we're trying to do is make sure employees understand through the training the results of their actions. If they click one or two clicks, provide whatever information that they should not be providing. And then, of course, holding them accountable, because IT does a great job at fishing expedition exercises with employees. And they do catch people. It's the frequent flyers that I call them that we need to address. So we're working on that as well. And then finally, what keeps me up is keeping up with the rest of the city in terms of staffing. With the increased staffing, not only in the public safety units, but public works, et cetera. The HR staff was reduced by one position last year. We can't continue that trend as well with more employees to serve, and we are a service department. I focus very strongly on customer service with my staff and try to keep those levels up there. But we can't continue to provide the same level of service with the same number of people, particularly in the area of benefits and FMLA administration. We will be looking at adding a position or asking for a position to be converted from a part-time temporary to a full-time in that area. I think that's about as much time as I want to take from you tonight, so I'll take questions.
First of all, I want to apologize, Mildred. I didn't intentionally skip over you. I was looking at and I just, yeah. So I'm going to start with you and also allow you to not only ask your own questions, but go back to the fire chief or police chief if you have a question.
Good evening, everyone. I'm under the weather, obviously. Far as keeping up the pace with being able to hire and attract the talent that you need, I was curious, is there a significant difference between the private sector and what the city actually offers for positions that, you know, you're really not able to meet or attract the talent that you need?
That's a difficult question to answer because we don't have a lot of data or information because we have not done a class and comp study since then. However, without that, we've been doing ad hoc studies on specific positions when requested by the various departments. And I can tell you that there is a significant, roughly a 10% difference in wage rates from the private sector for those technical positions.
Following that question, as I was listening to this or as I was reading, once individuals are hired into the city of Fort Lauderdale, which, you know, definitely is a privilege to be a part of an environment like this, the cost of living, how much is that impacting those new hires or people that when you finally get qualified help, how much is that impacting their decisions to say, thought I had a great job, but I can't afford to be here?
How much is it impacting? I can't give you a specific number. I can give you an example, however, of a recent experience I had only within the past couple weeks. I have a financial administrator position that has been vacated since December because the person promoted to Public Works to a senior level position. Great, lovely career development. I'm all for it. However, that position still remains vacant because I have made offers twice, one to an internal and one to an external, and both times were declined because of the wage rate, salary rate. That's the reality of the situation.
Thank you.
Rich?
Along those lines, I guess you might not have an answer because we need the study, but how do we compare to other municipalities when we're competing?
We generally compare fairly well
Okay.
with the other municipalities. So we're seem to be okay there in most instances. Once again, it depends on the positions.
Sure.
A lot of places will focus more on for developmental services, for example, inspectors. My understanding or my information tells me that a lot of cities provide more wages and benefits and signing bonuses, et cetera, for inspectors. But at the same time, they don't provide the environment or the security that we do. So there are other things that we can use to attract candidates. It's just a matter of what are their priorities.
Okay.
I guess, thanks, Jerome, that was great. And it sounds like it's very important that you get the classification compensation plan study approved this year. It seems like that would be really useful for your department. I was curious if you know how we compare just in general labor trends for flexible working arrangements. If you have a sense of that, I know it's prior to the study being done, but I guess how does City of Fort Lauderdale compare on flexible work?
Well, I will tell you that with anecdotal knowledge, we do not provide as flexible work arrangements as some others. Now, I don't want to say a lot of others because I don't have that data or information really available to me. But we have historically stuck to the traditional 5 8-hour day work days. We have asked people to come on site or be on site for the most part, with some exceptions. Now, I and other directors I know are being flexible with family needs, et cetera, for work from home. But they're short-term, temporary situations that we don't expect to go on forever. I will tell you that one of the accomplishments I feel proud of is that after almost a year of being remote, my staff was brought back into a suite of offices on the 16th floor of this building at very minimal cost to the city. I mean, we, plus Chief Schultz, were able to take some of the furniture from the old headquarters and use that, I'm being polite, yes. And use that in our offices, rather than have to go out and buy all kinds of new furniture, because, you know, a lot of it was just discarded or destroyed, when City Hall, died on us. But that said, you know, I, along with a lot of other directors and managers, have had requests from staff to be able to work from home. But that is not the trend that we have been going. And quite honestly, one of my arguments to the staff has been, you know, the city is paying a lot of money for this really wonderful suite of offices with great views. I mean, why would you not want to come into work, frankly? But, you know, with all that, it's a matter of building the teamwork back. It's a matter of getting that synergy of people being together and the camaraderie that I think is extremely important. Now, could we be a little more flexible? I think that's up for discussion.
Oh, thank you for your thoughts, Jerome.
We're kind of running behind, so but if you have.
I think mine was along the same lines, because you're never gonna be able to compete with private industry. I worked in the state system for many years, and no matter what we did, you can't compete with private. But how you do compete is that quality of life, that balance, the flexibility and those types of things. And so you know, it's glad that you guys are considering that. That might be opportunities also too, when we look at space around here. You know, space, I think is a lot of the departments say is a challenge, so that might be an opportunity as well, so. Same points. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to your presentations, all departments. Linda?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Well, I'm not gonna take as much time as these gentlemen took. I am happy to be here today. Yesterday, we actually got a proclamation from the City Commission for Government Finance Officers Week. So this week, we're celebrating all of the accounting folks, CPAs, and everybody who works in government finance. So to my team who's here today, thank you for your time. The budget team as well, the city auditor's office, anybody who works in government finance. So thank you to you all. So I'm gonna talk, not a lot, because you guys, finance is numbers. Numbers are numbers. I'm gonna go over some high-level numbers. I'm gonna go over some of the challenges we have and some of the accomplishments and some really cool things that's happening coming up this rest of this fiscal year into next fiscal year.
How are you gonna do this in a short period?
Very easily, very easily. My speech yesterday took a long time, but this is the easy stuff. Just so you get an actual idea of the volume of what we do here in finance. The utility billing team, which is ran by Veronica Wade, she's here in the audience. They bill 54,000 residents on a monthly basis. The revenue is over $100 million that her team collects. The purchasing team issued over $1 billion in POs last year. The accounting team processed 75,000 bank transactions came through that they had to reconcile and post. Paid 39,000 invoices, equating to about 658 million. The treasury team posted and reconciled 29,000 transactions. They manage a $1.5 billion debt portfolio and a $1.4 billion investment portfolio. And so when you talk about numbers, there's a lot of things coming through that finance has to account for, reconcile, post, validate, and ensure that it's accurate. So with that being said, I'm gonna go over to my challenges and the things that keep me up at night. So last year, we implemented a new ERP system. Last year was our first year auditing that ERP system and getting numbers out of it. Well, it was quite a challenge because we realized we had 9 months to fully stand up an ERP to service this large organization. And we stood up the shell, but there's a lot of processes inside of it that we didn't get to really flush out and really optimize. And so our financial reports were really late. When I say really late, 4 months past the deadline for the state to get it done. Good news is we did get it out. It did meet all the requirements it needs to. But what I realized through that process is that we really need to finish the optimization, finish the setup appropriately of it, and get away from a lot of the manual processes, allow the system to do some automation for us. So that's part of the things that keep me up at night is how do we finish those enhancements and make sure the system is doing as much as it can, so we take a lot of the work, the manual work that for these thousands of transactions that we post on a monthly and weekly basis. So that's one of the things that keeps me up. Another thing that keeps me up is the sophistication of financial fraud. We've had a couple of fraud instances, one that made the news where we accidentally paid the wrong vendor. Thank God we were able to collect every single dollar of it back, but that realized that there were some holes in my internal controls that we need to plug and we need to fix. And so that keeps me up at night until we get all the enhancements and everything we want in the system. I've stopped the ACH program because I didn't want any more errors where something was mistakenly paid out. So I'm leaving now the bad stuff. I'm gonna move on to the good stuff. So first, let me thank you all because last year in the budget, you guys approved for me to get a new utility billing system. We've replaced the HR system, we've replaced the financial system, but the utility billing system, which you guys every year have always talked about how high my outstanding ARs have been. Okay, we still can't write anything off in the old system, but the good news is we've sourced a new utility billing system and it's coming under budget. And the implementation of that will align with our new AMI program, where they both will come online ahead of schedule. So I'm excited to share that news. We're finalizing the contract negotiations now, and the system is actually a system that's directly linked to the AMI system that we just purchased. So they talk to each other. So the timeline to implement should be quicker, and we're super excited about this because this brings really good technology. I think it's better technology than our financial system to the city where it has maps and layers. I mean, it is really, really top of the line. So I'm excited that we were able to secure something like that and under the budget that was appropriated by you guys last year. So thank you for that. So that's one of the good news stories I have coming up. So our projects that we're working on and things that we hope to get done before the end of the year is, like I said, implement this new utility billing software, start with it. Another thing we're doing is we proposed to the city commission and they approved us changing the utility billing ordinance to get away from renters or tenants being able to open utility accounts. We're gonna go to owner only, and so we're working with the city attorney's office right now to get that in place, and we hope to have that done. Yeah, that's awesome. We hope to have that done by the end of the fiscal year. Another thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you just tell those that don't know the delinquency of utilities, how much we're paying?
So we're talking about 40% of our utility bill, about $7 to $8 million. That's, yeah, it's large.
That's why we're happy about
Yeah.
this change.
But that's in the future going forward as far.
It's gonna be in the future, but what we're going to do is that there's a statute that doesn't allow us to take any tenant balances and put it onto a new tenant or to the owner. So we are gonna, through the implementation of the new utility billing system, we're gonna be closing out and liquidating all of those old accounts. So we won't bring that junk in to the new account. We're just gonna have active accounts only and it'll be owners only. So I'm really excited about that. That will increase our collection rate. We'll be able to lien properties if they're ever sold. We're always gonna be able to recoup our money, which we're really excited about. Some of the things we're working on right now as well is we're finalizing some changes to our procurement process for small purchases that will allow departments to get things a little more quicker. And we're also gonna be doing some procurement ordinance updates to also facilitate the purchasing process within the city and help all departments get their items quicker. And the last thing I wanna talk about is that, you know, we implemented a new payroll system. It went live last year. We had a great accomplishment was we were able to issue W-2s, things went great. We have some little issues here or there that we're gonna work on over the summer months and implement some changes to make it better. But overall, it was a great success with that implementation. And it's really something to highlight because like I said, when we had so many problems with phase one and closing out the books that we were late with our financials, I'm happy to report that our phase two stuff, when it comes to the payroll and the W-2s and everything like that, went very well.
Good.
So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. I'll start. It's not a question. I'm just shocked. I heard a word that I haven't heard in this city in a long time, and that's under budget.
Yes.
Those things are over.
I'm happy about that.
Just looking around, are there any really serious questions that anyone has?
I just have a comment to make. I know that this board worked really hard with you over the years and have made some, I think, some really good changes.
Mhm.
And I feel really good about that. And this is one of them. So thank you.
Please feel forward to come with other ideas too.
Yeah, I will.
Credit card, remember the credit card process and all
Yes.
that stuff that we went
Yeah.
through?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think the procurement stuff is really important too, because that's the thing we see a lot with the other departments, the procurement, being able
Yeah.
to get things purchased in a timely fashion. So this year focusing there.
Absolutely.
And that increased costs when they have to go back out and rebid and take
Yeah.
time and inflation. Very good.
Hey, Chair. Any other questions? Question?
No questions, that's awesome.
Ask real quick, where are you located? I noticed you had said that you have insufficient
Yeah.
office space.
I didn't want to highlight that, but what I found is after City Hall was, no longer inhabitable. My department that went from all in one building and we had utility, all on one floor, the utility building on the first floor, we're in 4 different spots now. So I'm finding myself all over the place because we don't have a central place to be. Like my procurement office sits in the back of HR. Is it the right place? It's just the space we had available at that time. Payroll sits somewhere else, utility billing is somewhere else, treasury is over here, so we're kind of like a little bit in odd places, and so, of course, it's challenging for us sometimes, so we're doing the best that we can with what we were provided, but yeah, it is a challenge at times.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Thank you. A quick reset, we're a few minutes behind schedule. Plenty of sandwiches, grab a drink, sit and eat at the table, we're working through, okay?
That's the eviction.
The city logo.
Right? We get a little more. Appetizer.
Never seen it.
Started.
No.
It's the same unit, share the same brand of.
Public. See him? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start, we'll come back to him, I'll just keep moving, so. Take sidebar conversations outside, be greatly appreciated. Okay. So, that, Carl Williams, our Parks Director, Carl.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking some time out for us to kind of discuss what keeps us up at night. First and foremost, as a Parks and Recreation Department, we not only provide the fun, quality of life, but we also provide services. And because of that, we have a very unique department. Our department encompasses not only recreational programs, but some of the unique items that we do have in our department include marinas, facilities management, which handles many public facilities and buildings, streetlights. We also, of course, do our maintenance of our open spaces that includes not only just our park, but public spaces such as like our medians and areas throughout the city. And as such, we recently, over the course of almost a year now, we also added in sort of what you call like the beach experience, where we have a program manager that oversees that area and really kind of honed in on things that the business community as well as the experience of the residents that come to the Barrier Island. And so, you know, that as kind of like an overview for our department. We do have some things that certainly keep me up at night. As I kind of alluded to earlier, when we talk about you know, gives you a little heartburn, is, you know, post-COVID, prices and cost for services have certainly increased. As many of you all know already, we're in the midst of a $200 million bond project that we have been avidly working through over the course of the past couple of years. And, you know, with those increases has really impacted our ability to provide some of the projects that were included in that bond referendum. For context, you know, when you look at the cost of doing business nowadays, we're looking at construction costs and increases that are almost in the 40% range of an increase. And so that's really had challenges with not only kind of moving forward with that, but also providing through our service delivery. As I mentioned, you know, we do public buildings, which is our facilities and things of that nature. And so that oftentimes there's also long lead times for particular items like HVAC units and materials and things for us to actually make those repairs. And so inflationary costs are certainly a heartburn item for myself. Also, because our department kind of touches on a lot of various aspects throughout the city, you know, I mentioned marinas, but also our cemetery system. And so we have outdated technology or technology that we just do not have. And so we're in the process of trying to obtain the cemetery software because we are 100% manual. We're working on spreadsheets. And so, you know, that is certainly a challenge for our operational area involving with our cemeteries. Our cemeteries are completely in-house now. I know in past years, we did have a third party that provided the service. But now we do this all in-house, and being in a manual operations really has impacted our overall operations. Marinas as well, we have a marina system where we do have some manual processes as well with our marinas. And we're also looking to streamline some of our operations with our marine division and include marina software. One of our challenges that I probably come across at least once a week is our public restrooms. We currently have a contractor that provides the service for us, but in some of our higher areas where we have a lot of traffic, we have a contract with a vendor that provides adequate service multiple times throughout the day. However, at some of our sites, we may only have service once or twice that day. And it only takes one person to give someone a bad experience in a restroom. You know, with a lot of the challenges similar happen with the unhoused, and they'll take baths in there and kind of take some of the amenities of the bathroom. And restocking a lot of those supplies become a real challenge, especially when we don't have a mechanism really to address that in real time. And so we'll have to reach out to the vendor or we'll go and deploy one of our team members to address it there. So the restrooms are a big concern for me because it's something that the public sees. It's something that the public engages in. It's a necessity that we need to have it. But looking at ways to better provide a better experience for those that do come to our public open spaces and come and utilize our restroom. And lastly, what I'll touch on too is we actively recruit for many positions, and thanks to Rome and his team, we've been able to fill a lot of our positions. However, we do have positions that are hard to fill. I kind of mentioned to you that through our facilities division, we have some challenges hiring some of those positions, such as like certified electricians and plumbers to kind of do some of that work. And one of the things that kind of put us at a disadvantage is from a financial perspective. If you have an electrician or a plumber that has certain certifications, they, expect a certain level of compensation. And so those positions have been a challenge for us for quite a while for us to fill, and we're actively working on trying to increase or improve in that area so that we can attract those needed positions and candidates that can fulfill those roles. So with that said, I want to briefly touch on some accomplishments that we've had here recently. So in a prior year, we were given additional funding for an enhancement of our medians. And if you frequent A1A, maybe Oakland Park, Boulevard there, you've noticed some changes that we've made to those medians over the past year. We've recently engaged a agreement with the Orange Bowl that provides us with $1.5 million over 10 years towards the maintenance, the annual maintenance of the Jimmy Everett Tennis Center. There will, in exchange for that, there will be some tournaments that the Orange Bowl and the USTA will put on, which is an added bonus and a really neat exposure opportunity for the city. And lastly, is what the chair just mentioned is, so last night we did have a conversation with our commission regarding sponsorships. And we haven't implemented a sponsorship program. And a good portion of that too is to kind of leverage the services and the resources that we do have associated with our special events that we have and produce throughout the city. And so I'm very excited about that opportunity to identify resources to help us find potential sponsors for us to leverage the funding that we have and bring new experiences to residents and visitors to the city. And that's it. I didn't talk too much.
Hey. I just walked in. You want to start?
Start again.
Nothing.
I wanted to know, you said you have a problem with the restrooms areas. The agency that you contract with, are they local?
They are.
Do they ever, are they able to provide you with some feedback to how to prevent some of these things from happening?
So how the contract is drafted is we've identified like restrooms that are peak use, if you would. So I'll give you an example because it'll better explain it. So at South Beach, we have, which is the restroom that is south there on A1A. That's probably like our busiest restroom, and we have an attendant there that's essentially there all day, and they give that cleaning many times throughout the day. Now, that said, we also have a park, and I'll use Hardy Park for example. We have a very popular playground there. And so, of course, we have a lot of kids and parents, and we also have programming there for our soccer and things of that nature. And the challenges there is that the contractor, I believe, has 2 cleanings there per day. And so if they have one in the morning and then let's say at 8 o'clock, and then have another one, let's say at 4 o'clock, it only takes one person to really set up. Yeah. So that's our challenge.
Thanks, Carl. Great job. I enjoyed working with you, and I think we all enjoy the park system and all the work you do, and your summary actually highlighted things that I had no idea that Parks and Rec also fell under your purview. It does sound like you need probably a software system that has more of a capability to integrate with the city's system. I know you mentioned that. Is that something that you have an idea of what you'd like? Or is it something you'll be asking for in this budget?
So we do have an idea of something that we like. I don't want to say the specific name, but we do have a system that we do have in mind. And, we do have systems in place now, like, for example, like our work order system, we have that. But there's also opportunities for us to have a work order system that integrates into other systems throughout the city, like our C-Click Fix and things like that, so we could be a bit more responsive and things of that nature.
Great job, Carl.
Thank you.
You ever thought of those little buttons, so like I see on airports, like when the restroom is, something's not looks good, maybe there's a button that maybe has an automation that's flags you as one restroom needing service, I don't know, but.
Yeah, so I wanna say maybe 2 years ago, we started to use QR codes, and we've implemented those in not only just like restrooms, but also like in our park system. So if you're walking the dog, if you're engaged with a resident, or just visiting a park in general, and you see something that doesn't look right, you use your smartphone, scan it. What the issue is, it allows you to take a picture of it, and myself and or our team will get that in real time, and I'll be able to respond to it. That's great.
Just a couple of things. I think most people probably don't even realize how vast your department is, and it really is. By the way, I love the rocks and medians on A1A. Good job. I think it looks so nice.
Well,
Just
we got
personal
grief on that for a little bit, but I'm glad you said that.
I wanna know how many people broke their ankles so far.
But two questions. So I know you talked about hiring. Do you work with the trade schools at all, you know, to bring people on? And also, you know, is there a way that maybe, I know some companies will pay for certifications for, let's say, electricians or whatever. Is that some type of a benefit that you would ever consider? And secondly, I know you mentioned the 40% increase in so many of the supplies. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're probably not asking for a 40% increase in your budget. So what is being cut to be able to, you know, pay for the other
So that's,
necessities?
those are all great questions. So that's really part of the challenge of how we're kind of progressing through our bond system, is that when we have that level of increase, we have to start making hard decisions on things that we can fund or not fund. We've looked at other sources to kind of bridge the gap in a lot of our projects. And to this point, we've been pretty successful to still continue to deliver some of the things that we've initially stated that we would. But as we kind of move through the bond itself, towards the end, we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna have to make some decisions on things that we may not be able to afford. Then we'll bring that to our commission and city manager, and we'll make those decisions. As far as like positions, so we do reach out to like online tools where people with specialties would go and view and try to post on there. Human Resources is very flexible with us and kind of say, hey, you know, if we're having challenges filling a position, you know, what are some outlets that individuals go to basically look for employment? So we utilize those resources as well. In the past, we've put out flyers at colleges. We've put flyers out, of course, at some of our satellite sites here in our park system, as well as throughout our city system, to basically raise that awareness for open positions throughout the city.
Thanks. I just have a couple of things on the software that you're asking for the cemeteries. Is that more for a books and records thing, or is that for an efficiency within your department?
All of the above.
And have you estimated on the cost of that software versus the personnel that you would save or not have to hire?
So not necessarily not hire, because we still need individuals to report through the burials, do the processions that's associated with that, and also do the administrative work of kind of onboarding somebody to go through the deeds and the applicant. So there's that point, but then as it pertains to the system itself, I mean, to kind of like paint a picture, you're engaged with a client and, you know, you're asking them questions and you're trying to facilitate, you know, meeting their needs, and we're writing or, it's just an imperfect way to really provide a service where we know we can do better if we have the tools to do that.
And as far as the restrooms, I know that even your predecessor had issues with this, and I think that's when we went to a third party, hiring them to come and clean the bathrooms. You had mentioned almost in the same breath sponsors. When we talk about sponsors, are we talking about those that are putting their signs up in the parks and such?
So when yes, and also sponsors as it pertains to like our special events as well. And so like we we produce roughly 60 or so events internally. And then we have specific budgets for each of those events. And because of those particular budgets, it kind of doesn't allow us to be as nuanced and as creative as we'd like. So being able to have sponsorship opportunities and partnerships with various organizations who want to get out with their business practices and kind of work with the city, it allows us to utilize additional funding to bring in new and exciting things for families.
Do you go to homeowners associations with that information?
We have, yes.
And then just the cost of sponsorships for those things and the cost to rent the fields. I don't know if there's any room for increasing that, but that gives them fun. Thank you.
Great. Just one quick thing, and because I don't want to get into too much in depth in this tonight, but we had a presentation from Stantec last meeting where it showed a notable ongoing cost increase for the Swimming Hall of Fame. Is that part, it's the aquatic center, how much of that 1.9 million can be part of the aquatic center cost increase? And to help maybe offset, looking in your business plan, I didn't see any suggestions. I'd like to have some discussion with the community about naming rights of certain facilities.
Right.
We're losing a lot of possible revenue there. Other cities have done it. First thing comes to mind is maybe the locker room at the aquatic center, Speedo might be interested, or the bleachers, with some of the suntan lotion companies might want to have sponsor sections of bleachers through naming rights. That's additional revenue the city can come in, bring in to offset some of those increased costs.
Would that be in the lines of sponsorship? That would be in the lines of sponsorship.
Yeah. Well, the sponsorship and naming rights are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we would ask for you to explore the possibility, get the feel of the new incoming city manager and the commission and the Parks Advisory Board to see what the flavor is on that. So,
No,
is that a fair ask, Laura?
You're just suggesting exploring additional naming rights and sponsorships for facilities?
Yeah,
I think.
I know. And I think you mentioned about,
Underway, looking at.
okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned like maybe Home Depot sponsoring one of the splash pads or something like that.
Yeah, so I think, as we kind of initiate and start to draft the components of the RFP for a third party to do this, I think those are all possibilities. I know at one point, when we were engaged in the conversation about the aquatic center, Speedos came up, and naming rights was also a part of that conversation. And I can't really pinpoint exactly what the reason was why that kind of stopped, but through this process, I think that's something that we can also re-engage in as well.
Okay.
And Sheriff, just as a point of clarification, in the Stantec model, the debt service was for the Swimming Hall of Fame, it wasn't for the aquatics complex.
Okay,
So
but
it's
the
for
community, when the community sees that or hears that, they associate it with the aquatic center or that whole complex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Further questions? We'll jump back to the acting Parks Director. And I'll let you introduce.
Public Works.
Or Public Works, I'm sorry. Pronounce your names, I don't pronounce it.
Not a problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Bilal Abikaram. I'm the interim Public Works Director. I've been with the city for about 13 years. Early on, a couple of years, I was on the engineering side, and for the last 11 years, I have been at the utility side. Clearly, when we talk about public works, the first thing that comes to mind is infrastructure, more infrastructure. And when you think about that, infrastructure is labor intensive, it is cost capital is intensive, and it's also maintenance intensive. So really, when you look at the whole thing, what keeps me up at night is three things: projects, people, and the money. Can be very simple: project, people, and money. And I see it like a three-side of a triangle. Without people, I can't do project. Without project, I can't hire people. And without money, I can have neither of those two. So it is really a balancing game, trying to maintain that triangle stable as we go in order to execute the large program that we are tasked with. On the basic level, simple fact, we are an older city. A lot of our infrastructure is older. It sits in a salty water. Most of it is metallic and is susceptible to rust and deterioration. In addition, we have a lot of low-lying areas that are subject to sea level rise and king tides. We've seen it on the Isle so many times. We also, as a result of the 23 flood, become aware that we really have a lot of issue with flooding in a large portion of the city. Some good portion of the city doesn't have infrastructure, so we have sprang into action along those lines. So let's go back to the on the project side. We came back with a quick response on the stormwater program. We have divided the program into two phases. Phase one, 8 neighborhood, large investment program at a total cost of about $400 million. We're in the middle of executing and pushing that program forward. And we're also planning for the phase 2 program that includes 17 neighborhood and grouped into a 12 project. That's another massive program with an investment of in excess of $1 billion. Clearly, stormwater solutions are very expensive, but they're also comprehensive, covering the entire neighborhood of the city. And the same token on the utility side, we have been executing a large program under the consent order to satisfy the regulation from DEP. But we also have been pushing a lot of big initiatives such as the construction of the new water plant at a massive investment. We also pushing forward a large I&I program to reduce inflow and infiltration into the system for the cost of $120 million. In a nutshell, lots of project, big ticket item, require a lot of resources, a lot of capital to push through. On the people side, I think you've heard it multiple times across the evening. We can't get them fast enough. We can't keep them long enough. We can't pay them much enough. The problem is retention, recruitment, and compensation. Most of the time, we are competing with the private sector on the consultant side for engineers, inspectors, and project managers. On the operational side, we're competing also with the private construction market for electrician, mechanics, and general labor. And we uniquely are competing with other municipalities on a plant operator. That's a very difficult positions to hire for. The HR director has covered those. So we're having issue with all of these categories in terms of recruitment, retention, and compensation. Also let's move on to the money side. Clearly, the programs are massive. And clearly, we're not able to execute these large programs via the 5-year capital investment program. So we're looking at various bond initiative. Now, a lot of my staff talk about bonds and all will get a bond, but bond is not a free money. We leverage revenue over the for the next 30 years, and they have an annual debt service that you have to satisfy. So clearly, the money has to be covered in some fashion or not. But nevertheless, we're trying to execute these large initiatives with some assistance from the bonding side. On the bidding market and the construction market is out of control. I mean, you've heard it many times. We're finding out that when we bid project, the prices are coming way over. And way over mean not the 5% and the 10% and even the 20%. Material prices are going through the roof. Plant chemical, any electrical equipment, any mechanical equipment, valves, VFDs, generators, those are going through the roof. And what's going to make things worse is the new tariff that's been put in by the current administration on a lot of these things. But we keep seeing that abnormal artificial construction market. We're seeing Smaller number of bidders. We have seen a lot of competition. There's a lot of work in Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County. It's the same bidders, lower number of bidders that coming through, and that kind of doesn't help in terms of the overall pricing of these on these projects. Now, having said all of that, we've gone through some major initiative and some of our accomplishment, as I stated, we're constructing brand new state-of-the-art water treatment plant at a considerable investment of $666 million. We're also implementing the AMI program for smart meter that Linda has talked about. That's a considerable investment, about $70 million, 50 in capital and 20 million for the next 20 years at 2 million a year in maintenance. And we're gonna be seeing a lot more demand for required maintenance, because as we add more stormwater asset or more assets into the system, we're gonna require more maintenance of these new asset that we put in the system. So at the end of the day, it's all about people. And we're blessed to have a very good group of people in our department, about 502 in total. And it's also about resiliency. When we talk about resiliency, I look at it from resiliency of our people. We have been through so many emergency. We have been tested so many times, whether through the water and sewer break, into the great flood of 23, stormwater Eta in 2020. And all the time we have come through demolition of the city hall. So our people have come in through. So we look at it as we're very blessed to have that group of people with us. Also, we're very blessed that we have had the support of the commission on the infrastructure initiative. We're also very blessed to have the support of this board and prior boards when we ask for money to push a lot of these programs forward. And we're committed to push these programs and to provide the level of services. As you could see by looking outside the window, the city today is not what it used to be 5 years ago or 6 years ago, or even 3 years ago. It's a lot more the development and all that stuff that requires an increased level of service and increased demand on the system, whether it's the water system, the sewer system, or the stormwater system. And with that, we always appreciate your support.
Linda, we'll start with you. Any questions?
No, thank you. That was very thorough and I appreciate, I know there's been some changes in the department, so thank you for your service and your leadership there. And yeah, again, like, it's just, I guess I'm just curious, how many people are you missing? I know you talked about, lack of manpower and in some areas. I mean, I guess, is it more that there's turnover, or are you actually having numerous unfilled positions?
Well, we've got both. So we have a high attrition rate in terms of the vacancy. I believe last report we looked at was somewhere about 14%. We also, as we are pushing bigger program, bigger projects, we require more resources, because it's, at the end of the day, it comes down these large initiative and project groups, the capacity to execute is very important. So you need more project managers, more inspectors, and so forth. Now, some folks might say, well, you could always hire a consultant to augment that, but as you know, when you do that, a large portion of that money that we're given is gonna go toward consultant, not to the commodity side. And really, the preference is to keep as much of that $1 going to putting pipes in the ground rather than to pay it as a fee that goes to a consultant only on the front end. It doesn't help anyone.
Well, thank you for everything. I know there's a lot going on in Public Works, and we're all grateful. You listed a number of projects, and I think between the stormwater, all the pipe repairs, and the also the water treatment plant, I think most of the residents are really enjoying seeing the
progress in those areas. So thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I know you're painted a very tough and grim picture of what's going on.
I painted the way it is. I said, these are the three things that keep me up at night.
The question is, I mean, I quite understand also, given the location of Fort Lauderdale and Miami and West Palm Beach and all the competing municipalities. How do they, what do they do? I mean, are they doing any better than us or same as us? Or?
Well, as they say, size matter. Miami-Dade is much bigger than us, so they're, from a resource perspective and from capacity perspective, they have a lot more resources and a lot more funding. Same for the county system. I think when you start comparing us to similar size municipality, we're doing pretty good in that comparison. But keep in mind that 10 years ago, the average cost of a project was $5 to $7 million. An expensive project was a $10 million project. Right now, some of our stormwater projects, they go 30, 40, 50, and we're gonna have probably one that's gonna be in excess of $100 million. So that gives you the idea of what we currently have, because the level of effort and the intensity that we're doing and the amount of execution is really in a different level.
Thank you.
I know you guys have a big task, and so I was really glad to see the Fortify Fort Lauderdale and the thing, because a lot of communities around here don't realize that they're in the process of doing
Yes.
things. They're just on the list. So I don't know if there's ever been talk about having a dashboard that's easily accessible for communities or neighborhoods so that they know, oh, we are on the list of getting this. We're just, 3 or 4 down. I don't know if that's been ever discussed.
So
Yeah.
two efforts along this line. We have gone to the commission, I think some stage last year, covering the phase 1. We're planning to go back to the commission to kind of provide a presentation on the phase 2. That's the 17 neighborhood that's gonna be grouped in 12 projects. On the parallel side, staff, along with our consultant, has been conducting these outreach at various homeowner association and all that, explaining to them about the phase 2 and where they fall in that program. Clearly, everybody's interested, and clearly everybody wants their neighborhood to be included. However, we have to do it in some kind of balanced approach where we look at the neighborhood, the topography, the possible tools and solution, and all of these, and come up with some kind of methodology that would provide some ranking and weighting and so forth. So it has to be a structured approach rather than an ad hoc approach, because it's gonna have an investment component to it. There is considerable. And it's not likely to be taken in the sense, and it's not a simple answer as to when my neighborhood will be done. There's gonna be some science behind it, there's some data collection, there's some prioritization that needs to happen. And then we'll take that to the commission, and we'll engage with the commission with that effort, and have them also opine on prioritization and programs according to their constituents.
And then at the prioritization meeting with the commission, they talked about the bond. I think that'll probably come up in a later discussion, opportunities for the seawalls and infrastructure. But I know too, they also were very adamant about the water quality, and specifically the intercoastal and our waterways. And I didn't see anything specific about that. Is that something in the purview? How does that integrate? Like when the priority, they start the priorities in the January, you guys get the information. How does that integrate with your process for the next
So
year?
waterways has been an important priority in the last 5 years, and clearly waterways and river and canals is also a result of its stormwater, because clearly some of the stormwater ends up in waterways. So we believe by mitigating some of the stormwater aspect, then there would be an improvement of water quality in the waterways. However, we have to keep in mind and be practical about it. If we have a river that originated in Plantation, for example, and it traveled through multiple municipalities before it gets to our end, you know, it may be carrying pollution up and down from that down here. And you know, it's the same thing along those lines. So we have been doing some, we have the initiative with the Miami Waterkeeper. We test some predetermined location on a regular basis. We post that test results. Anytime we have let's say, a sewer main break and it goes into the river, that's highly regulated, that's regulatory. We put in the notices, we put in no swim notices, and we test until we have a passage and it's to be into a safe level. So that's always out there, it's always on the radar.
Just a reminder, we're at 7:00.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions, just
Do
like.
we-
with-
Okay, so Laura, I just was gonna test you, do we need to have a motion to extend past the length? Okay,
No.
thank you.
Can I add one thing though? So Norby has suggested that we do a site where we show all the capital projects. We actually have one, through Charmaine send the link to everyone. It shows existing projects and every project planned in the next 5 years, and it shows it by neighborhood. It's all GIS based. So. But no, you don't need a motion, but yeah, you're right, we are short on time.
I just think of with all the growth, it's like, yikes, there's just so much that has been done, that continues to be, that needs to be done, and I'll just look forward to seeing the budget in May, because I don't, it's just a lot, it's infrastructure, it's the buzzword.
I didn't hear bridges, and I know
That's
that
right,
that's,
Bridget?
no, and that's something that I know the city is in desperate need of. I would like to hear about the plans for fixing our 33 bridges, 22 are completely like in bad shape or some number like that.
So there was a couple effort that was done in 2014. We've done the bridge master plan, and we kind of went back and did some update to that master plan recently. Clearly, bridge replacement is a cost intensive and requires some collaboration with FDOT through the LAP agreement and getting some funds from FDOT for that purpose. We would love to do more if we could get some of that penny taxes that the county has passed. However, we have not seen that stream of
Transportation, the penny.
the transportation, but however, we have not seen that stream coming our way for that purpose. The county seems to be keeping that close to their chest for some reason, but believe me, you and me.
Because I think it was because we don't have enough room to grow. We can't widen our streets, so we can't get a piece of that money. Am I correct in saying that?
Well,
The penny tax, we're talking about the penny
yeah,
tax?
bridge is transportation, so it would, well, definitely qualify under that, but.
And actually, the county, we're working on a third ILA for that agreement. That's actually gonna provide more funding to the cities. Our allocation, I think, is somewhere between the 2 and 3 million a year, depending on which formula we land on. But they're still gonna be subject to those restrictions that the county has. But again, this is gonna give some allocation, so possibly bridges, microtransit, some of those types of things.
That's where I get concerned when we're saying possibly bridges.
Yes,
That's the concern.
if I may, so Transportation and Mobility Department, and Milos Majstorius, Acting Director for City's Transportation and Mobility Department.
No, we're not, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
So if I just may respond to these questions. So far, there has been about 5 cycles of applications through surtax program for all the cities within the county, right? So we were successful. We secured about $26 million through these 5 cycles. The most recent one yielded about 9.5 million. But under the current agreement, really, we had to create some level of capacity improvements, right? When it comes to vehicular capacity, that's how basically, those are the types of the improvements that they were seeking, right? Now, there is a third amendment that we're going through. It might provide more eligibility, but again, funding limitation might be something that we'll still be facing. So we're going through that third amendment.
Can I just, so you said we're only getting 3 million a year?
So
I
So-
literally
we fund
just
them.
heard,
So-
I heard Greg Stewart say today, and I don't think I heard him wrong, that the county is bringing in like $430 million a year from that surtax.
And
what do you
25%
guys
of
get?
it is generated,
contributor to it.
25% of it is generated by us. But they have the program, a lot of it's gonna go to some central things. If you have to do an application,
Yeah.
and go through a lot of hoops, this would be a direct allocation. That's what the cities are asking for now, because the application process hasn't really worked for any of the cities.
So just to give you an example, if I may, just for another minute. So during most recent cycle, there were about 56 county-wide applications. And basically every municipality could submit their project. We submitted 3. Only 2 out of 56 were awarded. We were one of the 2.
Okay.
Right? So the remaining 54 did not get any funding.
And how
So,
much the two.
Was that for a
two
bridge?
projects were totaling what?
it was about $25 million, I believe.
Right.
First one was about 14, ours was close to $10 million. Yeah.
Linda,
Or
Mildred, I mean, sorry.
No questions.
Rich.
Thank you.
Okay. I look forward, as the whole board does, when we get into your budget presentation, hearing more, especially on the CPI, bring up the bridges in more depth. And I just want to say, I'm glad to hear you use the word phases instead of tranches. Because the community doesn't understand.
I
that.
don't like that term
Yeah.
because
And I would, as a recommendation, that we transition to keep that going, so it's common terminology that the community can understand. Okay, thank you.
I think of tranches as payments.
Yeah,
it's a French word, so fancy French word.
I just thought it was a military term.
I don't know.
Okay.
There was such thing.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Go this way, right? Skip over
Yeah.
this guy, you let him go first, but that's.
Well, because.
He was here, he was ready.
Public Works was addressing an issue that pertained to the city, I'm sure.
I'm happy to be here, so thank you. Al Battle, Acting Director for Development Services, commonly referred to as DSD. We are the department that starts the growth and development process throughout the city for development. We're also the group that's engaged on planning, shaping that growth, whether it relates to urban development, historic preservation, neighborhoods. We're also involved in historic preservation and also property maintenance. And as of last year, we're also involved in customer service through the customer service call center at Fix It FTL. So we do a number of things, all serving the public, some internal more than external, but you know us because we usually hear from you when it relates to complaints about your neighbors. We have about 280 FTEs, a little over 280 FTEs. We have some part-time employees and we have contract employees to supplement some of our technical services. Besides myself as the acting director, I also have with me this evening, my deputy director, Portia Garcia, and assistant director, Juan Rodriguez, who are over sitting in the audience out there. Just want to recognize them. And we're a mix of kind of non-operation and program area groups. So building services, main permitting arm for the department, community enhancement, commonly referred to as code enforcement, urban design and planning, zoning, engineering. The admin are our internal services group. Housing and community development is also part of DSD, citywide customer call center that I mentioned, which is where all of the calls for the city are housed, as well as Fix It FTL. And cultural affairs is also part of DSD as well. We work out of 3 locations, 700 Northwest 19th Avenue is probably the one you're most familiar with, commonly referred to as the building department. We also function out of 521 Northwest 4th Avenue, which is over in Flagler Village, primarily where our call center and a lot of our construction enforcement team is. And we also occupy space at 914 Sistrunk Boulevard, which are the offices of the CRA. Our HCD team is housed there. Just for some highlights, we have processed for like the last 10 years or so, over 20,000 permits this year, like past year, about 25,500 permit value exceeding over $2 billion of investment annually into the Fort Lauderdale economy. And also another highlight that we're proud of is typically for complaints related to code enforcement, we respond in less than 2 days or around 2 days or less in terms of customer response. Someone going to visit and follow up on a complaint from the public. As far as accomplishments from last year and ongoing, we adopted a phase 1 amendment to the tree and landscaping ordinance. Many of you probably are familiar, have heard in the communities about saving old growth trees, preserving the tree canopy for the city. Those ordinance amendments will go a long way in preserving that. We have another phase that we'll be going through, and hopefully we'll have that passed by the beginning of 2026. We also adopted amendments to the noise ordinance. Lots of growth also produces lots of noise in places where it probably didn't exist before. Primary complaints were about the low decibel, or what's commonly referred to as base noise, and also noise coming from our burgeoning entertainment district. So ordinance amendments will address those particular issues in a more direct enforcement way. Also amended or added land use amendments for the Uptown Village area. We see that as a significant growth pocket, future growth pocket for the city. That is that area north of Cypress Creek around the Executive Airport. We see a number of now new apartment buildings now sprouting out of the ground. We created a zoning code up there and amended the land use plan in order to facilitate that growth, and the development community is taking advantage of that. We also fully implemented the digitalization of our department from a permit intake process. So all permits, all activities related to the development process and code enforcement, everything is online. Customers may visit us, and they do, in order to do business in person, but for the most part, they can do just about everything they want to do in an online environment. Fully integrated that customer call center and Fix-It FTL. So we stood that up last year. There's a lot of bringing that team together, finding a space together, building that team. They're fully operational right now. We've had a couple of run-throughs, as you will, with storms and emergencies over the past year. But if you ask us now, we can provide some good data, and we have some good responses in terms of how we're facilitating and helping our neighbors. Just a couple of other smaller projects that we've initiated over the past 12 months. Initiated a citywide mixed-use zoning code update. We're starting the public engagement process on that. That is of value because there are other pockets in which development will occur. Now, what it looks like, we want to be able to help frame and shape that. So think about the commercial corridors around the city, where you have shopping centers or uses that are getting to the end of their useful life. There will be some redevelopment of many of those sites. And in many cases, there aren't any form-based codes like you see in the downtown, or you see in Flagler Village and other pockets around the city where we have prescribed what that growth will look like. This is an effort to do that in a much larger fashion. It will not be more monolithic approach. Clearly want to make sure it is sensitive to the neighborhoods and communities that are adjacent to those areas. So this will be a big process and a big project. We won't get that done in the next 12 months, but we hope over the next couple of years, we'll have some recommendations to bring forward to approve. And the last thing is, as I mentioned, we do and are focused in the historic preservation lane. So Selbo Bend is an area, one of the areas that we spend a lot of our time. We just initiated a vision plan with that group. We have the draft that we're going through. We're going to share that with that community and also ask the commission to support the document that'll be created from that. So those are just some highlights of some accomplishments. There clearly are more, but in the interest of time, I want to give these people time to talk. I won't talk about it so much. In terms of major challenges, or what commonly referred to as what keeps us up at night, for us, we have a number of technical staff members in building services, code enforcement, the other parts of the permitting puzzle that have long tenure and could retire at any moment, which would then leave us to backfill positions, particularly on the licensed individuals that we've experienced that before with the recession and then the revamp of the real estate market in 2008. We had to catch up with the development community. So we're trying to mitigate that by documenting as many of those processes as possible for people to come in, be able to hit the ground running and be able to go from the day of go. Also, in some cases, when we can, replacement while in place. So in other words, if we can overhire, in other words, fill a position when we know someone is about to retire, hire a person that basically is their replacement, have them and train them in place so that when they walk out of the door, that person is ready to go from day one. Cross training and also strict assignments from our existing staff. Also ways for us to make sure that we're ready to go if and when people start to leave in abundance from our organization. Succession planning is also one of our efforts. And also, as you heard, market-paced compensation and pay is something that we struggle with as well, particularly in the technical areas of our department. For us, also another area of challenge is conflicting priorities amongst stakeholders. And for us, the stakeholders are those who invest, those who build, those who make policy decisions in the community at large. So when there are changes to the Florida Building Code, when there are changes to the UODR, state and federal legislation, we have to be front and center to lobby, to advocate for our positions, coordinate projects, whether it be with our partners with Public Works, Parks, transportation and mobility. We're all engaged in the permitting process. So sometimes those particular projects and priorities can sometimes be conflicting because codes and or ordinances may not be consistent with that. So we usually are the place to try to help some of those things be able to move and continue to have a pace towards progress. And last, for us is the same as you've heard as well, affordable housing. We're more on the policy and creation of that inventory part of the equation where we can help solve that problem. But it's also a problem for us when we want to hire individuals. We don't recruit a lot from outside of the area, but when we do, that is something that comes up in the equation. And a lot of times, if we can't match their salary, it's usually one of the things that they bring up in terms of why they won't come and work for the city. So affordable housing, we do our best to create as many policy opportunities around it and financial incentive programs that are non-financial as well as financial. But that is something that we know is a challenge because the need is larger than the availability to build the inventory. So that's all I have for you this evening.
Any burning questions? Okay, well, we look forward to your budget presentation in May as well. Moving along.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Miloš Majstorović. I'm acting director for City's Transportation and Mobility Department. I joined the city in January of 2023. As a deputy director, from May of 2024, I'm in this role. And before joining City of Fort Lauderdale, I was with the City of Miami Beach for about 9 years. So when it comes to our department, we basically have 4 divisions: admin support, parking services, transportation, and community bus. Our budget is about $32.6 million, and we have 94 FTEs. The administration division is responsible for leading and conducting day-to-day operations of our department. Within that group, we also have a couple of project managers who are responsible for both transportation and parking projects, which are CAPs. This division has about 7 FTEs and the budget is about $2.5 million. When it comes to parking services division, we operate, manage, and maintain about 11,000 parking spaces between 4 parking garages, and about 46 surface parking lots. That's where most of our employees are, about 75 FTEs, and the budget for that group is about $24 million. Transportation group has about 10 FTEs and a budget of about $2.2 million. They're really responsible for basically implementing our vision to be multimodal city by 2035. They're also spearheading traffic calming practices. One of the most common requests that we really get within our department is for traffic calming all throughout the city. They're also reviewing applications for maintenance of traffic, vehicles for hire, and also are responsible for coordination with other agencies, whether that's FDOT or the county or our metropolitan planning organization. And we really depend on relationships with those agencies and the funding that we are getting from them. Finally, community bus, that division has 2 FTEs and a budget of about $4 million. Within transportation or community bus program, we offer 3 different types of services. First one is community shuttle bus program. Second one is a micro mover, which is provided by Circuit. And the third one is water trolley service. We are expanding those services. Happy to share that recently, in mid-February, we expanded micro mover to Northwest Community. And we are carrying about 17,000 passengers every month with that service between downtown service and the Northwest Community. So when it comes to what keeps us up at night in transportation mobility, so the first one would be competing interest and priorities, similar to what DSD is facing. The second one would be a limited ability to really obtain any financial resources to fund new projects, and I'm talking about general fund per se, because parking fund is a little easier. And then finally, traffic congestion, and that is due to increased development and really limited options to go around the city. So when it comes to the first one, competing interest and priorities, really, I can provide a couple of examples in here. And those might be competing priorities, whether they are internal or external with other agencies or partners. It can be as simple as a traffic calming program, given the lack of funding or the type of options that we have out there to implement traffic calming, right? Whether we go with a more expensive or less expensive solution, right? So if we go with a more expensive solution, it's gonna last longer, but we have also about 4 pending requests. So we might choose to go with the less expensive solution that is gonna last less amount of time, but ultimately we'll be able to deliver on more projects. The other example can be, hey, we wanna move traffic, but we also want to provide for adequate level of pedestrian safety, right? So those are two conflicting, right? So for certain corridors, we want to make sure that we have some level of policy or direction. Hey, this is a pedestrian corridor or vehicular corridor, and really for our boulevard, for example, west of the tracks might be vehicular, but east of the tracks through US 1 might be pedestrian. And then there are really different means and methods and projects that we would have to pursue associated with that. When it comes to funding, again, for anything that is transportation related and not parking related, we are competing with all other departments for general dollars, which is really limiting our ability to move certain projects along. We are seeking any local or county or federal grants. And we have done a couple of changes over the last couple of years in order to position ourselves better. For example, getting certain level of cost estimates, at least higher level of cost estimate, that's helped us secure additional funding from the surtax program. So I provided that example of the most recent funding cycle being the most productive for us. Again, only 2 applications and $9.5 million secured for one of the projects going forward. So that is, I also wanted to mention, and I omitted to mention that there was a question about the bridges and surtax. There's actually one of the projects that surtax funded for us, and that's South Ocean Bridge. It didn't fund really the 100% of the cost, but it funded about $2.5 million. That was through funding cycle in 2020. So that is one of the projects out of a number of projects that we were awarded that actually had some surtax funding in it. Finally, traffic congestion. So we all know that population has grown, the development is growing, and what we can see in the future is more and more traffic, right? So due to cities build out conditions, really the solution would be better managing traffic demand. Supply most likely won't change much. Really the function will be how efficiently can we manage the network and how much we can invest and work with other partners, whether that's FDOT, the MPO, or the county, in order to improve our transit service and provide really more options, transit options, in order to improve the throughput to our transportation network. Our goal in here is to further expand our micromover, provided that we can secure funding. Our goal is to pursue additional options through surtax program, which part of the surtax program, even through amendment number 3, will continue to fund community shuttle program. Every year we are provided the opportunity to seek additional improvements to community shuttle program, expand really our bus network, provided that that's justifiable or justified and approved by the county. So we'll be seeking that. And finally, we are constantly coordinating and communicating with the county on efficiency of our traffic signals, right? So you might have observed, and I'm going to give you an example of Southeast 17th Street, for example. It is an active project, and even though we do not see any shovel in the ground per se, there is a lot that is going on with traffic signals where you might see them operating less efficiently than normal.
There is a FDOT project that replaces the brains of the intersections, and we will see some major improvements in the next couple of months, but in the meanwhile, you might see a little offset or a lack of coordination of the signals, for example. So we want to make sure that we understand what's happening out there, and that we voice our concerns with those parties, and that we really lobby for what's the best for the city and what's the best for our interest. Additionally, internally in here, we are closely coordinating and communicating with our DSD department. Really, we want to focus on all options, transportation options, and that includes walking. And when it comes to that, with any new application, we are looking for any improvements around developments that would improve conditions really for pedestrians and bikes and safety of those users. When it comes to some of the major accomplishments or what we will be working on, I'll mention few in each one of the areas, both transportation division and parking services division. So in transportation would be really completing design and beginning construction of Breakers Avenue project, streetscape project. We were able to get some funding from the state in there, and there is a timeline that we have to meet with that project. Also, there is about $1 million in this fiscal year for Riverland Road traffic calming improvements. We want to make sure we deliver that. We want to advance design of Southwest 17th Street mobility hub. That is project in partnership with the MPO. It's about $6 or $7 million. Conceptual design was approved by the City Commission a couple of months ago. We want to continue improving mobility by implementing or advancing our sidewalk master plan. That was a plan that was presented to City Commission in January. There is a certain amount of CIP funding that is available to advance construction of new sidewalks, really, because our sidewalk master plan was very telling, and we identified about 435 miles of missing sidewalks through that effort. We want to continue installation of our traffic calming, and hopefully we can secure a little more funding for enhancement of that program. Again, the most frequent request that we get in our department is really for traffic calming. Las Olas Boulevard, I don't want to forget that, but we have engaged consultants on both eastern and western corridor, and we want to advance that design for Las Olas mobility so that we can ultimately seek funding for construction. When it comes to parking services division, one of the goals is to restore proper operation of Las Olas garage lighting. We actually have a solicitation out there. We want to complete the design of a parking lot at Holiday Park. We want to complete construction of improvements or construction improvements at a couple of other lots. Currently ongoing would be Gold lots north and south, and also expand EV charger infrastructure throughout the city, implement also new technology that would help us better manage and analyze our parking operations. We actually started expanding our EV charging program. We have permits associated with that program as well, and so far we have about 22 chargers citywide. On a community bus division, one of the major improvements would be branding and installing signage out there so that it's clear to our users as to which route serves which stop, and how they can get more information, and how can they get to customer service and whatnot. And again, enhance also overall service levels and quality of service by leveraging any surtax funding. So that's pretty much what I have, but I'm open for any questions that you guys have.
I'll start. It's not a question. First of all, it's going to be interesting and challenging as we move forward to see what type of federal grants get cut and federal grant opportunity with the new administration. And if possible, can we get, because you had the one chart of ridership per hour. It was 8.9 riders per hour on Circuit and Laudergo. Is that correct?
Yes, so it is, and when it comes to cost, I can further expand. When it comes to cost per passenger for community shuttle program is about $8 per passenger for circuit is about 9, and for water trolley is about $2 per passenger. So when it comes to community shuttle, there is a really interlocal agreement with the county defines a minimum, right? And that's about 7.1. Below which, if we basically do not meet 7.1, we put that or certain routes at risk from receiving funding in the future.
Okay.
But there are a lot of efforts, again, when it comes to branding and the marketing that we are conducting in order to improve the ridership and really build a case for better system, more reliable system, and then generate some additional activity from the standpoint of passenger activity.
So what, if possible, before possibly the joint workshop, commission workshop, can we get some more detailed information on the number of riders per hour, how much we're spending in the actual budget for those programs?
Yes.
And I know last year we started for Las Olas and the beach, a $2 co-ridership cost. And other programs throughout on the circuit are free for those neighborhoods. What type of return on investment, are we seeing that money, or is that decreasing the cost of that program that circuit charges the city? So if you could give us more details on that, and am I missing anything that we would like to perhaps see?
I'd like to see the difference in ridership from when we started it to now, and if it's increasing and working, which I think it is.
From when the city took it over
Yeah.
from the TM.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I can provide you some soft feedback now based on.
We're right.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's good, like, yeah, because you mentioned the ridership and you said 17,000 are using the circuit, right?
Circuit about a month. Yep.
Is that reflected in that ridership per hour on your metrics or no?
That so ridership.
Per vehicle?
No,
It's total.
total. This is average over the last number of months.
Yeah, so it's
But we
probably based
provide,
over a 24-hour period, so
Okay.
I think we need more, that's what we're asking for, more.
Yep. absolutely.
The cost versus benefit of these programs.
Yeah. The ridership per hour seems low based on the number of people that are
Right.
using it. That's what I think. I saw.
Unless they run 24 hours.
That's all I have. Anybody?
I only have one question. So I see that Las Olas Boulevard is being paved, so I'm assuming the ripping out of all the medians is tabled?
So the medians, the discussion about the medians will come up again as part of the Las Olas mobility project, and particularly Western Corridor and particularly shops segment. Current design consultant is looking at two options. One would be what was adopted by Corradino or adopted by the city commission, developed by Corradino Group a couple of years ago, which was keep the median in place. And the other one would be removing the median and expanding little sidewalk and whatnot for that area. So we're currently working on that, and within the next 2 months, we should be able to vote before city commission and stakeholders and show two, and then one would be chosen to advance to 30, 60, 90% plans, actually 30 and 60, and then it would go through design build for construction.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other board member have a question?
Just would like to see Oakland added to the time spent on Oakland Boulevard personally.
Between Sunrise and Oakland Park, yeah.
Yeah, because that one, I didn't see that one on the list, the time spent on corridor, so that might be one to start monitoring, because that's a backup all the time. Anyone that lives in Oakland can attest to that probably. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Milos. We're at 7:30. I apologize, we're a half hour over.
Best for last.
Good evening. Yeah, I guess you saved the best for last. My name is Tamika McKay, and I'm your award-winning Chief Information Officer and Director of Information Technology Services here at the city. Allow me to introduce our Assistant Director and Chief Digital Officer, Angela Marinas, our Business Operations Manager, Marco Yurcuti, and our Chief Information Officer, Chuck Everett. And last but not least, our Public Safety Manager, Jason Swift. Thank you all for being here and for your dedication. The IT department is responsible for overseeing the city's comprehensive technology, infrastructure, and digital services. This includes a public safety communication, as well as the print shop and the mailroom. Our department today has 74 employees. We did lose 4 positions over the last 2 years, which we've been mitigating with staff augmentation. And it's also important to note that 2/3 of those 74 positions are actually technical resources, considering we do house the city's print shop, and the city's mailroom. Our budget is 27 million, which is actually lower than most IT shops. According to Deloitte and Gartner, the average IT budget for an organization is 3 to 6% of the overall budget. Here at the city, it's been consistently under 2.4%. As highlighted in my recent FAB presentations, 2022, 2023, and 2024, I've indicated that our technology infrastructure, our internal processes, as well as our staff skill set have faced longstanding challenges of being fractured, being siloed, outdated, and underfunded. In response to those challenges, or opportunities, as I like to think of them, we initiated a multi-year, multi-phase strategic plan for technology modernization anchored in 3 pillars. Do you guys remember what those 3 pillars were? I'll give you a hint. One starts with a P, one starts with a C, one starts with an M.
Multiple choice?
People, cybersecurity, and modernization. So PCM. We talk about people, we're talking about professional development, we're talking about resource management, staff augmentation, and outsourcing or managed services where it makes sense. We talk about cybersecurity, we're talking about governance, risk and controls, policies, standards, and best practices. When we talk about modernization, we're talking about digital transformation, process improvement, and operational efficiency. Well, I'm very proud to say that with the support of Ms. Babb and the support of our city manager's office, over the past 30 months, we've replaced, we've upgraded, we've migrated, we've consolidated, and we've modernized outdated hardware and software, addressing 90% of our end-of-life hardware, replacing a 50-year-old ERP system, and modernizing our backup and disaster recovery system with a hard savings of $23,000 per year, just moving from tape backup legacy to disk backup. We've increased employee engagement by 91%. We've reduced help desk call hold times by 56%. We've increased professional development for our staff by 261%. And this is just to name a few. We've been really kicking butt and taking names the last 30 months. And of course, we couldn't do it without your support. As we quickly close out some of these modernization projects addressing over 20 years of technical debt, 20 years of technical debt, as much as we've accomplished, we still have ways to go, which leads me to what keeps me up at night. In 2021, 58% of state and local governments experienced ransomware attacks, costing over $52 billion, an average of 6 months to recover, and irreparable damage to reputation and trust. Therefore, as we continue to build on our modernization, we must prioritize governance, risk, and compliance, which is the C, cybersecurity, PCM, people, cyber, modernization. So we're gonna be focusing on cybersecurity so that we can prevent the past where we had servers that were old enough to drink, literally, and protecting our critical resources. So in this year enhancements request, you'll see a focus on cybersecurity tools and resources, including professional services. And with our current constraints, we realize that there are resource constraints throughout the entire organization, but we must actively and creatively reduce our risk, increase governance and compliance to protect the investments, and then building on capitalizing on operational efficiencies like smart technologies and artificial intelligence. In the past 6 months, we were able to partner with HR. I'm sorry they're not here to give them a shout out, to bring in a cybersecurity expert. And in just 6 months of having this contracted specialized skill set on staff, we've reduced our cybersecurity risk posture by over 200%. While this is commendable, the recent cybersecurity assessment identified several vulnerabilities, controls, and governance deficiencies, mainly resulting from lack of best practices and resource constraints. I'm going to give you one specific example. Several months ago, we had one of our police IT staff members separate from the organization. And after his separation, he sent threatening messages to compromise our system. Because we don't have a centralized way to manage access and the necessary oversight, we were at risk, and thankfully, we did not have, at least up to today, we did not have an incident. So for this reason, we're going to be requesting additional funding for cybersecurity tools and professional services. As we shift the culture into prioritizing proactive and strategic technology investments, and I want to emphasize that, proactive and strategic. We have been very reactive and we have been very responsive. We want to move to becoming proactive and strategic as we capitalize on these advancements in technology. In addition to advancing the technology, we want to see more efficiency like smart policing, smart traffic, community initiatives like broadband, citywide Wi-Fi, which have all been linked to economic and workforce development. But again, all these need to align with governance and controls. So we want to work on building a solid foundation as we drive the city of Fort Lauderdale safely and securely into the future. So I wanted to speak quickly because I wanted to give our cybersecurity expert just a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes, Chuck, just to talk about cybersecurity risk and then answer any questions.
I think we read that in the plan. I don't want to
Okay.
take away from you, but we understand the importance. And when we come back, we'll get into it in budget some, so.
Okay, do you have any questions?
I have a comment. I remember the day you first came in and sat here and said you were gonna do everything and you've done it, so congratulations.
Thank
You
you.
guys have worked really, really hard. Great
Thank you.
job.
And we couldn't have done it without your support, so thank you very much.
Glad to see the cybersecurity, because that was in every other report. Do we have a cybersecurity team at this point?
We do. It's a small team compared to our size, which is why we will be looking looking for professional services so that we can contract specialized skill set specifically for that.
One quick question, if my memory serves me correct, and Russ might want to help me fill in the gaps. I think it was last year, when you mentioned 90% of the equipment's been updated, but you said that when people that were teleworking or logging in, starting work from the field, it was a 40-minute time period.
That was the Chronos, that was the timekeeping.
Did we get the?
Put a new system in place, right?
We are working on, we got the funding and we're actively working on that project. But yes, that again was another system that had not been updated for years, hence why we had to secure it on an internal network, causing the 15-minute time frame to clock in and clock out. But we expect, Angela, do we have a time frame on the project?
The project was
Yeah.
kicked off.
Here we are.
Successfully moving
Totally there,
forward,
yeah.
and we should be going live by the fourth quarter of this year.
Good. So it's about a 2-year program to complete, but at least we're making progress.
We
Oh,
are.
absolutely. Yes, no,
Okay.
we're actively engaged.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, great.
All right.
It's been a long night. I got 7:41, so I'm gonna wrap it up pretty quick. First of all, I want to thank staff for staying over. It's been a long day. The new city manager, I think it was worthwhile. And that's why I kind of let things play out so that she could really get some good exposure to the different departments. And the other part is, we have 6 out of the 10 new board members, 6 of the 10 board members that have come on this past year. So learning about your departments and learning about the operations of the city, I think they'll find very helpful. And then we have we heard about more about feedback on the request for a non-for-profit funding process. We'll probably hear more when we do our joint workshop. That joint workshop will be Tuesday, April 15th at 11:30. What's that? Yeah, at the Broward Center for Performing Arts. It's not a required meeting, but the more board members that can attend, I think this is very good, sends a positive message to the city commission. We'll get their feedback, they'll ask ours as we preliminary start the budget. And then we're followed up the next day, we're meeting here on Wednesday, April 16th at 5 p.m. So with that, I'm gonna turn to city, Laura, you have any thing before we do?
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. So the last item on your agenda this evening is probably preparing for the joint meeting. So so you meet 3 times a year for the good of the new members. The Budget Advisory Board has 3 standing meetings with the committee or with the commission every year. The first one is this meeting, which is the kickoff meeting before you start your real budget work. So now that you haven't been doing real budget work, but you will be doing work with our staff to develop the budget. So in the month of April, you'll be learning about payroll projections and everything that goes into the personal services budget and about some of the revenues. Ross will come back to talk to you about the general fund revenues. And then you'll be meeting with departments to hear about their budget requests. So this meeting is the meeting before you do all of that, before you hear the new city manager's preliminary budget. So the context is getting any direction you need from the commission in order to do that work. So a lot of times at this meeting, one of the items on the agenda, as the chair indicated, will be the not-for-profit organizations. The chair will present that recommendation, have a discussion with the commission about that. At this meeting, you might also want direction on if the commission sees this as a year where you maybe have the opportunity to expand services or how they want this year to go, and anything else you talk about. So that would, if you could talk about that tonight, the chair would be able to best represent you in the meeting. I don't know if, Chair, you want to talk about if you want to do introductions to the commission since you have a lot of new members. But if you could take a few minutes now to talk about how you'd like that meeting to go, then staff could help to prepare.
I think first of all, yes, the members that are there will introduce them. Typically, the chair will speak. I'll work with Laura to kind of do an agenda for that meeting from our presentation. I just might reach out to ask, I think some of the messages that we should send, we're hearing issues with IT, cybersecurity. We need to put some focus on that and support that, along with some of the other things that we heard tonight. With the concern with all these major capital improvements coming on the next 10 years, making sure that there's proper project management, oversight, and procurement, and to try to streamline for cost efficiency. Because when you start out a project and it runs over, they don't have the timeline period runs over, then that's when costs go up. And we've seen it with every project historically. So that's my couple thoughts, and I'm just gonna open it up for discussion. Ross, you're senior here too. Anything else we need to talk to them?
No, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the nonprofit stuff. I think that when Bowling and I are gone next year, you guys can do it.
Yeah, go for that.
You know, I don't have, I get what we get out of it. You'll bring up what needs to be brought up.
And some of our, I think, concerns too was potential shortfalls in years 2 and 3 years out in the budget, based on the Sandtech.
We were supposed to get back revised Stantec. It was sent out?
The next day.
It was sent the next
I did see
day.
it. I didn't review it, but that was the updated one. So that was that. Wow, that was quick.
They actually sent it to me that night, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
But they're still staggering numbers.
Yeah.
So.
So are you prepared to talk? Well, I mean, you could tell them that we think they should raise taxes now, and they're gonna say no. But, I mean, but
Let me work with the new city manager. And
I think what
staff.
shocked you, Melissa, and a couple of other people, when we saw the millage go from 4.11 to like 4.5, 4.6 in year 3 and 4, we were all like, whoa, hold on a second. So.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth pointing out, do you wait 2 years from now when you're forced to take and hit it a big hit?
Right.
Or is it better to stair step it up? You know, I think from what I'm hearing from the community, if ultimately there's going to be an increase, they'd rather have it gradually and do it stair step than they would one time hit 2 years out or 3 years out. And we know we're gonna have to fund those 28 positions 3 years out.
And on top of that, I think it's hard to increase taxes when we have our water bill going up 20% a year.
Yeah.
And the affordability across the board for lots of fixed income and middle class families.
Yeah.
And we heard that's also a challenge for recruiting. So we need to keep that in mind in the balancing of our decisions and recommendations.
It'll be interesting to hear revenue projections, what's up, what's
Yeah.
down. You know, I mean, Al, from your department, I mean, I just monitor from DRC review, the DRC reviews, they're down. They're not doing them like they were constantly. So that tells me there's less projects coming in the pipeline, which are 2 and 3 years out of permitting
Which will hit
phases.
us for taxes.
Yeah, and so that's gonna affect the assessed values.
Yeah.
So we just can't look at today, you gotta project 2 and 3 years out to be able to meet the demands.
When do the revenue projections come out?
Next week, I meet the
26th.
Yeah,
Not
so
projections, my
for,
meetings.
the
Conference.
property taxes, which is
Oh,
around
that's-
half, that comes June
Oh,
first,
yeah.
is when they give it to us, but you wanna speak about the other revenue?
Yeah, so there are two parts. It's the revenues that we get from the property appraiser, well, three really. The revenues we get from the property appraiser, we'll get those estimates June first or a little bit before. The second part is what Ross serves on our committee for revenue estimating. And there we'll look at those really the non-state and the property appraiser based rates. And then the third set will be the rates or the revenue we get from the state. So those usually come in later in the process. But June first is our big date where we look at what we get for property revenue.
It comes really too late, but
Like in the process.
it comes when we're pretty much finished with our meetings, then we get that number. It's really weird.
Was the estimate that you sit on, you start to get ideas of it? or
Not of the tax, not of,
Yeah.
no, because that's separate. That's,
Okay.
we'll get estimates. I'll bring to the board estimates of apartments here within the city.
Yeah.
But
So
we won't know that number.
what we include in our modeling, and that's
6%,
what
right?
Stantec shared with you all last meeting is about 7%. For this year, and they use that information to really help us build the budget, and it will help the city manager decide, as we navigate the process, which priorities we want to focus on. And then when we get the June first numbers, we really start fine tuning that proposal.
And then just kind of a side note to that, we're spending some money for the school camera traffic enforcement. But I was shocked to hear that, and so was the mayor when the police department was streaking traffic enforcement. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they said 60% of their traffic stops by an officer find out that those plates aren't registered to that vehicle. They're improperly registered.
Wow.
So those cameras are gonna pick up those license plates and you're not gonna be able to enforce that car owner because they're gonna say, that's not my plate. That's my car, it's different. Am I correct in what they said at that city?
That seems high.
That percentage, that sounds very high,
Yeah.
but he did share that they do have instances.
I might be wrong.
I'd say it's
but
6%, not 60%.
That was a very high number because the
Really?
mayor was even shocked. So I think when you go to your review at the police department, could you find out a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Of their,
What meeting was that?
where they had the 2 motorcycle officers,
At the conference meeting?
conference
Okay.
meeting, yeah. And the one officer, when the mayor had said, what do you guys need? Or one of the commissioners, and then he asked about the traffic enforcement, and they said they need more officers, and he said, well, we're putting cameras in for school zone enforcement, so if I'm correct, and then he said, well, a lot of when you have a motorcycle officer or a traffic enforcement officer physically stop the vehicle, that's when they can catch them for improper registration. But a camera only captures license plate, it's not challenged.
Well, I would challenge you to say, listen, the toll booth, taking pictures and getting tickets, and they're not always accurate, but they're a lot better than having
And
it.
maybe those officers could be used better in a
Right.
better place, or, and instead of just sitting there right now.
And part of that argument, what he said that was because they need more motorcycle officers. I understand, they need more police officers, they need more in investigations, they need more in Marine Division, they need more out on the streets in high crime areas. But as we all know, the budget of the pie is only so big and can only be sliced so many ways, so. Okay, Laura,
So
anything?
if everyone's comfortable, we'll set up a meeting with the chair and finalize the agenda. If anyone has any input, you can share that separately with me too. So thank you all for your time tonight.
Thanks again, staff. It's been a long night, but yeah, the city manager, I hope you found it very enlightening as well.
Very enlightening. Thank you.
Joe Brown.
Yeah.